good evening. Wherever you are, however your day has gone, now is the time to let your thoughts drift softly away. To another time, and another place. Let your body relax. Let your breath slow down. And allow your mind to step gently into the warm, golden world of ancient Egypt, not the grand temples or towering pyramids you may imagine, but something simpler, quieter. Tonight, we are not in the halls of pharaohs, but in a little fishing village along the calm edges of the Nile. This is a place where the air is warm and still, where boats drift lazily across shallow waters, where barefoot children play among reeds, and life flows slowly, in rhythm with the river. There is no hurry here. Only soft laughter, the steady splash of oars, the smell of fresh fish roasting over coals, and the songs of villagers working beneath the sun. So, rest now. And let us journey back into the gentle daily life of an Egyptian fishing village. Thousands of years ago, the first light of morning stretches across the smooth water of the Nile, casting long, golden reflections that shimmer like silk. A pale mist lingers over the marshes, softening the edges of the tall papyrus reeds that sway gently in the morning breeze. The world is quiet. Only the chirping of ibis and the rustle of waterfowl disturb the silence. Far off, a low, wooden boat creaks as it rocks against a reed dock, its hull gently bumping with each tiny wave. In a cluster of mud brick homes nestled close to the shore, a young fisherman opens his eyes. His name is Casey. He's been a fisherman, like his father and grandfather before him. The house is cool and dim, with walls made of dried Nile mud mixed with straw, shaped by hand and baked by the sun. He rises slowly, listening to the morning sounds, chickens stirring, the crackling of a small fire, and the low murmur of his mother, already awake and grinding barley. He steps outside barefoot. The ground is smooth, hardened by years of footsteps. A few goats bleat quietly as a sleepy dog stretches under a woven mat roof. The village is small, just a few dozen homes clustered together, with paths of packed earth winding between gardens, storage huts, and fish drying racks. The air smells of damp earth, wood smoke, and river water. And in the distance, the Nile sparkles, wide and calm. Today, like every day, Casey will go fishing. He will paddle out onto the river, cast his net, and hope the gods bless him with a good catch. But there is no rush. Time flows slowly here, just like the water. Inside the family courtyard, Casey's mother places a warm flatbread on a clay plate. She's already boiled some lentils with onions, flavored with herbs from the garden, mint, coriander, a touch of garlic. Breakfast is simple, but nourishing. Casey eats quietly beside his younger sister, Nanu, who's braiding a doll from leftover palm fibers. There's no formal dining here. Just soft woven mats on the ground, clay cups of river water, and the slow rhythm of shared meals. Afterward, Casey takes a short walk through the village to gather his fishing gear. Along the way, he passes the basket maker's hut, an elderly man named Menka, who sits cross-legged in the shade, weaving reeds with practiced hands. Menka greets Casey with a nod and a smile, never breaking his rhythm. Further on, a pair of boys push a wooden hoop with sticks, laughing as they chase it down the path. Casey stops by the river edge, where his narrow wooden canoe waits. It's been patched many times, sealed with pitch, reinforced with reeds. His net is coiled carefully inside, a wide circle of woven flax rope, knotted in a traditional pattern passed down for generations. Before he leaves, Casey kneels at the edge of the water. He scoops a handful, lifts it to the sky, and murmurs a short prayer to Hapi, the god of the Nile. May the river be kind today. May the fish be plenty. May the boat return safe. Then, with quiet strength, he pushes off from the shore, and glides into the morning. The boat moves smoothly across the water. Casey sits low, his legs folded beneath him, steering with a short paddle carved from sycamore wood. The river is wide here, lined with reeds and low marshy islands. Birds fly overhead, herons, ibises, and the occasional sacred falcon gliding far above. Sometimes he sees crocodiles basking on the shore, their scaly backs half buried in mud. But today, the river is calm. A pair of hippos snort and roll in the distance, ignoring the small boat drifting past. Casey paddles quietly to a spot he knows well, a deep bend where fish like to gather beneath the lilies. He sets his paddle down, unwraps the net, and tosses it wide. It lands with a soft splash, then sinks slowly, weighted with small stones. He waits. No sound, no movement. Only the river. He hums softly, a tune his father taught him, one that reminds the fish to come. His hands rest on the edge of the boat, and his eyes drift over the horizon. There is no time here. Only the water, and the sky, and the breath between them. Casey sits still in his boat. The net has disappeared beneath the surface, anchored by small clay weights, woven carefully with care and experience. It is the kind of net that takes days to make, twisted by hand, with strong, fine fibers soaked in the river for flexibility. He rests his hands in his lap, his fingers lightly stained with flax fibers and river silt. The only sound is the slow creak of the wood beneath him and the soft slap of water against the canoe's side. Time drips slowly. Tiny dragonflies dance just above the waterline, their gossamer wings catching the morning sun. They hover for a moment, shimmer, and vanish among the reeds. A turtle's head bobs up near the canoe, its eyes blinking with a kind of eternal patience, then it disappears again beneath the surface, leaving only a ripple behind. Casey watches everything with calm eyes. He is used to silence. The rhythm of the river is the rhythm of his life. Waiting, watching, listening. He leans forward, pulls the net gently, slowly, checking its weight. With a practiced motion, he hauls it over the side. This time, the net comes up heavy. Inside, the shimmer of silver, tilapia, catfish, and tiny river smelts, all tangled and squirming. Some flap and splash, but he handles them with care, gently freeing each one and laying them in a basket lined with damp reeds. It is a good catch. He smiles softly to himself. The gods have been kind today. By midday, the sun climbs high overhead, casting long shadows and heating the earth until it smells of dust and dry grass. Casey guides his canoe back to the edge of the village. The dock is no more than a cluster of worn logs tied together with ropes of papyrus and reeds, secured to a tree trunk. It groans softly as he ties his boat and lifts the basket of fish over his shoulder. Children meet him on the path, their bare feet kicking up little clouds of dust. They ask if he saw crocodiles, or hippos, or the strange white heron that follows fishermen from time to time. Casey answers softly, always with a smile, telling them what the river told him today. The village is more alive now. Women carry water from the Nile in rounded pottery jugs, balanced carefully on their heads, their long linen dresses fluttering in the warm breeze. Some walk with children clinging to their legs, others with woven baskets full of river greens or fresh baked bread. Smoke curls from cook fires. In shaded courtyards, lentils bubble in clay pots, and thin fish dry on racks, hanging from wooden pegs like silver ribbons. Casey walks slowly past the elders seated beneath a broad acacia tree, their faces lined with wisdom, their eyes half closed in the heat. They nod to him, content in the rhythm of the day. Casey enters his family courtyard through a low wooden gate tied together with rope and vine. His mother is already preparing lunch, a stew of chickpeas and fish, gently simmering in a wide, round pot over hot coals. He greets her quietly, placing the morning's catch in a wide clay bowl filled with cool water. His sister Nanu helps scale the fish with a smooth stone, humming to herself. The courtyard smells of earth and herbs, dried mint, crushed coriander, a hint of lemony tamarind. Lunch is shared in the shade, on woven mats that smell faintly of river grass. They eat with their fingers, dipping flatbread into the stew, sipping sour date beer from small clay cups. There is no rush. Conversation is soft. The murmur of the village continues beyond the courtyard walls, a baby crying in the distance, goats bleating lazily, the creak of baskets being lifted. Afterward, they rest. The heat of the day is at its peak. Casey lies on his side with one arm under his head, his eyes half closed, listening to the hum of insects in the garden. Everything slows. Time is a smooth river. Later in the afternoon, the village begins to stir again. The heat fades slightly, and the breeze returns, carrying the scent of water and flowers. In the shaded lane behind the house, Nanu helps her mother with the loom. They weave linen from flax fibers soaked in the river for days, then spun with hand-carved spindles. Each thread passes slowly through calloused fingers, guided by rhythm and memory. The cloth they make is light and smooth, perfect for dresses, head wraps, or fishnets. Next door, an old woman tends to dye pots, boiling river plants to color cloth in pale ochres, soft greens, and gentle blues. She hums while she works, her arms stained with the colors of the Nile. Further along, children gather in a circle to play a game with pebbles, tossing them into the air and catching them on the backs of their hands. They laugh, argue softly, then begin again. Everything feels unhurried. As the sun leans lower in the sky, shadows stretch across the ground, cool and long. As the afternoon sun begins to soften, a low murmur rises from the riverside. The fish market is waking. Each evening, traders and villagers gather on the shaded bank to share and exchange the day's catch. Woven mats are unrolled on the ground, and baskets of fish are lined up carefully, tilapia, perch, river eels, and tiny sprats, arranged like glinting treasure. Casey brings his basket and takes his usual spot near the edge, where the reeds whisper softly in the breeze. There is no shouting here, no bargaining. Only quiet voices and gentle gestures, familiar neighbors exchanging fish for onions, lentils, and garlic. A man offers a spool of linen thread. Another offers a small pouch of dried dates, dark and sticky and sweet. Children carry goods from one mat to another. A girl balances a clay jug on her head as she walks barefoot, her little brother following behind, dragging a string toy carved like a crocodile. Laughter is soft, like leaves brushing in the wind. A woman plays a small flute while she waits for her husband to return from the water. The music drifts like smoke above the heads of the gathering, curling into the amber sky. Later, back at the house, Casey sits with his grandfather beneath the edge of the courtyard roof, where an old fishing net is spread between wooden pegs. Together, they mend the holes left by wriggling fish and tangled weeds. The grandfather's fingers are slower now, but his knots are perfect, tight, neat, and strong. He hums while he works, and Casey listens to the same old songs he's heard since he was small. Sometimes, his grandfather pauses to tell a story, softly, almost in a whisper. Of the time he caught a fish longer than his arm. Or the time he fell asleep on the river and drifted all the way to the next village, waking only when a heron pecked his forehead. or how the fish once vanished for days, until the priest threw a handful of barley into the Nile and prayed for their return. These stories are not told to boast. They are simply part of the day, folded into the slow rhythm of tying knots and weaving flax. The sun is low now, casting golden rays that filter through the reed fence, painting stripes across the wall. The air smells of drying grass and the last heat of the earth. The light fades. A thin curl of smoke rises from the low fire as Casey's mother prepares the evening meal. Tonight, it is grilled fish, seasoned with salt, pepper leaf, and crushed fenugreek. She lays the fillets gently on flat stones near the fire, where they sizzle quietly, filling the courtyard with a rich, savory scent. Boiled lentils, fresh cucumber slices, and bread baked earlier in the day complete the meal. The family eats together as the sky changes, first golden, then rose, then the soft indigo of evening. There is laughter. Nanu tries to count the stars as they appear one by one. Casey offers a bit of his fish to the sleepy dog curled beside a bench. A neighbor stops by with a jar of fig preserves and stays to share a bowl of lentils. Fireflies blink above the garden wall. The conversation is low and gentle, and every now and then, the group falls into peaceful silence. The Nile hums softly in the distance. Evening settles like a soft blanket over the village. When the meal is done, and the fire has burned low, the family prepares for sleep. Casey lays a woven mat near the courtyard wall, where the breeze is coolest. Nanu curls up beside their mother, her head resting on a folded linen cloth. The stars stretch overhead in slow, silent brilliance. No one speaks now. Only the soft rustle of night birds, the chirp of insects, and the occasional distant croak of a frog in the reeds. Casey closes his eyes. He imagines the river flowing forever, carrying boats, stories, and songs into the future. Somewhere, another boy just like him is casting his net into the same water, beneath the same moon, beneath the same stars. And the Nile keeps moving. Slow, ancient, and full of dreams. Sleep comes gently. The day has ended. And tomorrow, the river will rise again. It is the first day of the new lunar week, a day the villagers often mark with small rituals and quiet visits to the tiny temple nestled near the marshes. The temple is not grand, not made of stone or towering columns, but it is old, and deeply respected. Just a few dozen paces beyond the edge of the village, tucked beneath a broad-leaved sycamore, it stands, a small shrine of mud brick and sun-dried clay. Whitewashed with chalk, its surface glows softly in the morning light. Symbols of fish, river birds, and papyrus are painted along the walls in faded blue and red pigments, refreshed by the hands of elder priestesses each year. Casey walks with his mother and sister down the narrow path toward it. He carries a pouch of dried fish and a cluster of wild lotus flowers, simple offerings of gratitude. Others pass him in silence, carrying their own bundles, reeds, herbs, carved charms, or tiny amulets of clay shaped like cats or eyes. They arrive at the temple just after sunrise. A single priestess stands near the doorway, her linen robe faintly perfumed with frankincense. Her hair is braided with bits of shell and lapis-colored beads. She smiles gently, raising her hand in welcome. Inside the temple, the air is cool and still. No torches burn here, only the filtered light from the high opening in the roof, where dust and birds occasionally pass. At the center of the space is a small stone table, smooth from centuries of touch. Here rests a figurine of Hapi, the Nile god, carved from river stone. His round belly and flowing beard represent abundance and nourishment. At his feet lies a shallow bowl of river water, changed each morning by the priestess. Casey kneels and places his offerings beside the others. He whispers a short prayer, not asking for riches or miracles, but for balance, for the river to continue flowing, for the fish to remain, for the village to stay whole. The priestess sings a short chant in a voice like wind through reeds. And for a long moment, nothing moves. It is as though the whole world has paused, holding its breath with the river. Then Casey stands, steps back into the sunlight, and feels something quiet stir in his chest. A sense of calm, of belonging, of something older than memory, flowing always just beneath the surface. After the temple visit, life in the village resumes its gentle pace. Casey, finished with his morning ritual, makes his way through the narrow footpaths that wind between homes and workshops. The village is built organically, no grid or plan, just one house leading to another, shaped by the terrain and the flow of the river. Small fences of woven reed divide spaces, while clay jars and stacked stones mark garden edges. He pauses near the potter's yard. Here, under a stretched canopy of papyrus mats, the potters work the river's clay, thick, heavy, and dark. The air smells of wet earth and smoke, and the sound of wheels turning is soft and rhythmic, like a lullaby spun in slow circles. Casey watches as old Meru, the village potter, leans over his wheel. His hands are steady, strong. He shapes the clay with care, guiding it upward until it becomes a smooth vessel with thin, elegant sides. His fingers move like they've done this 1,000 times before, and maybe they have. Beside him, small pots sit drying in the sun, cups, bowls, water jars, all arranged in neat rows on flat wooden slats. Some are plain, others painted with delicate lines or stylized birds. A younger woman, Meru's daughter Tia, is kneeling beside the kiln. She tends a fire that smolders quietly beneath a low dome of brick and ash. She adds straw and bits of old linen, keeping the temperature steady. The kiln itself is simple, but powerful. It is fed with crushed limestone and acacia wood, and over the course of a day, it will bake dozens of vessels, turning soft clay into durable beauty. Casey greets them both. Meru nods without looking up. Tia offers him a freshly fired cup, still warm in her hands, and smiles. Further along the path, he hears the sharp tap of copper tools in the metal worker's hut. A young man named Neb is hammering a fish hook into shape, bending bronze wire around a stone anvil. Next door, a basket weaver ties the final knot in a flat fish trap made from palm ribs and rope. All around, the village breathes with purpose. Each hand has a task. Each day has a rhythm. And every sound, the wheel turning, the fire crackling, the children's laughter, blends into a song the village has sung for generations. Later in the day, as the shadows begin to stretch across the ground and the air cools just slightly, Casey decides to visit the gardens beyond the village. These are not gardens in the modern sense, no rows of flowers in perfect beds, but woven patches of cultivated earth tucked between reeds and groves of palms. They belong to the community. Everyone plants something here. Some grow herbs, mint, coriander, chamomile. Others raise vegetables, onions, leeks, lentils, chickpeas, squash. Some plots are planted with river greens, wild-growing edible plants that thrive near the marshes and can be used in stews or ground into paste. Casey walks slowly, his feet crunching softly on dry paths of packed soil. He greets an elderly woman crouching near a patch of okra, her hands muddy, her smile warm. She shows him a cucumber as long as her arm and laughs at its shape. Nearby, a group of boys chase frogs near a narrow stream. Their clothes are wet, their faces bright. One of them has a woven basket and hopes to catch a small turtle. At the far edge of the garden, the marshland begins. Here the papyrus grows tall, so tall that it towers above Casey's head. its head swaying and rustling like dry silk in the wind. Birds dart between the stalks, warblers, herons, and river kingfishers. A pair of ibises glide overhead, their wings casting fleeting shadows on the earth below. Casey stops here for a moment and breathes deeply. The air is full of scents, fresh mud, sweet grass, cool water. In the distance, he hears the soft lowing of cattle. Some families keep a cow or two tethered near the gardens, their bells ringing lazily in the breeze. Milk is a treasure, not always plentiful, but enough for mixing with honey or softening a barley cake. As the light fades and the river begins to reflect the blush of sunset once again, Casey turns to walk home, his hand still carrying the smell of earth and leaves. The village behind him is slowly settling for evening. Smoke drifts upward. Voices grow quieter. And the river, always the river, flows beside it all, watching, remembering. Every few days, villagers come to visit the river woman. She lives just beyond the last row of homes, near the bend of the river where the water flows slowest, thick with lily pads and soft silt. Her name is Tamari, though most simply call her Mother of the Mud. She is neither priestess nor healer in any formal sense, but people trust her wisdom, the kind that comes from years spent observing wind, water, and illness. Her hut is shaded by palms, its walls pressed with crushed river shells, and inside hangs the scent of dried marigold, mint, and wood ash. Casey's mother walks there today with a bundle of fish bones and an aching knee. Tamari welcomes her with a nod and gestures toward a mat beneath the open roof. She speaks little but watches carefully, her eyes following every movement like the tide watches a boat. She hums softly while mixing a clay poultice, Nile mud blended with oil, crushed flax seed, and the powder of ground hibiscus root. The paste is warm, earthy, and smells faintly metallic. As the river woman applies it to the mother's knee, she tells a story of a time long ago when the Nile ran dry for 3 days, and a girl walked barefoot to the source, singing until the waters returned. Her voice was cracked by sun, her feet bled from stone, but she did not stop. It's not just medicine. It's memory. When the poultice is set, Tamari offers a cup of warm barley tea, and silence returns. The birds sing, the reeds sway, and the river keeps breathing. That evening, the village gathers in the central square, a wide, open space near the fig tree, where the ground is smooth and swept, and smoke from nearby ovens curls like ribbon through the dusk. It is not a festival night, no grand occasion, just a common evening, and yet, someone begins to sing. It starts softly. A woman sitting on a low stool taps a shallow hand drum, slow, hollow beats that echo the rhythm of distant thunder. A second joins her with a reed flute, its voice high and wandering like wind brushing tall grass. Children begin to clap. A few elders sway from side to side. Then comes the rain song. It is old, so old no one remembers where it began, sung not to beg for rain, but to thank it in advance, to speak to the clouds in a language older than words, a gentle, repetitive tune passed through generations like the weaving of baskets or the shaping of bread. Come gently, O sky. Wash our jars and roots. Lift the dust from our homes. Sing us to sleep in your silver arms. The words are always the same. The melody never changes. But the feeling it brings, of community, of hope, of surrender to something greater, grows stronger each time. Casey sits with his family on a mat spread across the earth. He watches the hands beating the drum, the soft sway of heads, the flicker of firelight on clay pots and dark eyes. And for a moment, time is wide and quiet. There is only music. and sky. After the music ends, the villagers do not scatter quickly. They sit in clusters, some speaking softly, others merely leaning back to watch the stars emerge from the velvet sky. In one corner, an old man roasts small kernels of barley over glowing coals. They pop and crack, and the smell drifts across the square, mixing with sweet date smoke and cooling earth. Casey helps carry a jar of water from the river to refill the family's clay jug. He moves slowly now, sleepiness beginning to pull at his arms. He passes a group of girls braiding each other's hair by lamplight, their fingers fast and nimble. He sees a mother swaying gently with a baby tucked to her chest. He hears someone reciting a story in the old language, a tale of how the moon got its scar, or why frogs sing louder on warm nights. Back home, his sister Nanu draws symbols in the dirt with a stick, not words, just patterns she finds comforting. Their mother sprinkles a ring of powder dash around the fire, keeping the embers safe through the night. They eat one last piece of bread, dipped in fig jam, and wash their hands in a shallow bowl of rose-scented water. Then the lamps are blown out, one by one. And the courtyard becomes a pool of shadows and quiet breath. Casey lies down on his mat, the stars above like tiny bowls of gold, and listens to the river whispering nearby. The next morning, just as the sky begins to shift from charcoal to pale blue, Casey wakes to the low sound of paddles, slow, steady splashes cutting through the stillness. A boat is approaching. Not a village boat, those are shorter, narrower, made for quick river turns. This one is longer, flatter, with a canopy stretched across its middle, and bundles of wrapped cloth tied to its deck. A trader's boat. It moves like a shadow across the river's face, guided by two oarsmen at the rear, and a young woman at the front holding a long pole to test the river's depth. The village stirs gently. Not in alarm, but in welcome. Visitors are rare, but not unwelcome. By the time Casey reaches the water's edge, a small group has gathered. The elders greet the trader, a thin, sun-browned man with bright eyes and a dust-covered cloak. He bows deeply, offers a gift of dried figs and a small carved amulet, and is invited to sit beneath the shade of the largest tree. His voice is soft but practiced, the voice of a man who has told the same stories in many places. He speaks of a city far upriver where stone temples rise beside flower markets, and streets echo with music and dancing. He shows beads made from foreign glass, painted charms shaped like birds, and oils with smells unlike anything the villagers have known, spiced with cinnamon and resin and something like crushed flowers after rain. The children gather closest, eyes wide. Casey listens too, smiling faintly, but his thoughts drift not to the foreign cities, but to how the trader moves, how his hands never stop weaving small knots in a cord of leather, how his feet are always positioned to leave. Like the river, always moving. But Casey belongs to this bend of the river. He knows the names of the frogs, the seasons of the reeds, the hum of the boats at night. And while the stories of other places are sweet, he knows the sweetness of silence, too. Later in the morning, after the trader has shared his stories and set off downstream again, life returns to its gentle rhythm. In one corner of the village, near a flat patch of shaded ground, several children gather in a half-circle around a woman drawing in the sand. Her name is Neferu. She is not called a teacher, but she teaches nonetheless. With a stick in one hand and a quiet, strong voice, she shows them letters drawn into the earth. Simple curves. Tiny birds. Coiled snakes. She teaches them to see the world in symbols, the way the word for river curls like a wave, and the word for home is built like a child's bed. Casey's sister, Nanu, sits cross-legged in front, her face serious. Her small fingers trace the shapes in the sand, then pause, then try again. Learning is slow here, but deep. There is no rush. No noise. Only the sound of the stick sliding across sand, and the murmured repetition of symbols by the children. After writing, Neferu begins to tell stories, not from scrolls, but from memory. Of how cats were first invited into homes to guard grain. Of why the owl is wise. Of how the stars follow the river and protect the boats below. Nanu listens, wide-eyed. Learning here is not only letters and numbers, but values, patience, observation, reverence for the past. Later, Neferu takes the children to the marsh edge and shows them how to recognize the shapes of bird tracks, how to judge the height of the water by the pattern of the reeds. Casey watches from a distance, smiling. He knows the river will shape his sister, just as it shaped him. That night, long after the lamps have dimmed and most of the village has curled into quiet sleep, Casey remains awake. Sometimes he cannot sleep right away. He lies still on his mat, eyes open, watching the slow drift of stars across the sky. The sounds of the night are many, but none of them sharp or frightening. They are soft, layered, like threads in a blanket. A frog thumps in the garden wall. An nightjar calls from beyond the papyrus. A dog breathes heavily near the fire pit, chasing something in his dreams. Casey rises and walks quietly to the edge of the water. He does not bring a torch. The moon is full tonight, and the river glows like brushed silver. There are fish below, still moving, slower now, but constant. Just as the moon glides above, the fish glide below. He sits on the dock with his feet dangling over the side. He listens. There is something sacred in the way the river sounds at night. A pulse. A breath. Not speech, but something close, something the villagers do not need to explain, because they all feel it. The river is alive. Not like a man or a beast, but as a keeper, ancient, watching, generous when honored and dangerous when disrespected. Casey cups his hands and scoops a little water. He lets it drip slowly between his fingers, offering it back with a soft whisper. He does not know why he does it. Only that he has always done it. That his father did it, and his grandfather, and that maybe, somewhere upriver, another boy is doing the same thing now, whispering into the moonlight and giving thanks with water. There is a time, just before true sleep takes over, when the body remains awake. But the thoughts begin to float. Casey lies on the mat next to his sister. The fire has long gone out. The air is warm but no longer heavy, and a thin breeze drifts through the open courtyard. His mother hums softly, not a song, exactly, but a low note that repeats. A tune she hums when she thinks no one is listening. A song with no name, passed from her mother, and hers before that. It sounds like weaving. It sounds like dusk pressed into cloth. It sounds like a memory that has never left. The stars above are crisp now, as if the night sky has settled into place and will remain undisturbed until morning. Somewhere, someone turns in their sleep. A clay cup clinks gently as it's nudged by a foot. The village is still, but not empty. Even in sleep, it breathes. Even in sleep, it remembers. And beneath all of it, the straw roofs, the drifting ash, the moon shadows, the Nile still flows. Always. A breath beneath the land. Casey's mind wanders, to the trader's stories, to the river woman's clay, to the way his sister drew letters in the sand. He does not know what the future holds. He doesn't think about it much. For now, there is the shape of the wind on his face. the scent of warm earth, the murmur of frogs in the reeds, and the knowledge that, for as long as he can remember, and for as long as his family will remain here, the village will keep rising, sleeping, drifting, living. And when he dreams, it is not of far-off temples. It is of home. And now, let us leave them here. Let us gently step back from the village, barefoot, careful not to wake the sleeping dogs or the fishermen curled in their boats. Let us walk once more by the edge of the river, where the lilies close their petals, and the reeds lean toward each other like sleeping friends. Even the moon has grown quiet now. The world has hushed its voice. You can almost feel the rhythm of the water under your feet, as if the land itself is rocking gently, like a cradle. Close your eyes. Breathe with the river. This place, this ancient, humble village, it does not exist in just one time. It lingers. In the memory of water. In the wind moving through fig leaves. In every small act of daily love, the kneading of bread, the casting of a net, the sweeping of a courtyard. It lives in the hush of the early dawn. And in the dreams of those who remember it. So now, let go. Let the river carry you. Flow down the slow current of still thoughts. Feel the stars above, scattered like warm grains of sand across the sky. You are safe here. You are far from hurry, far from sound, far from all the things that pull and tug. Here, there is only this moment. The hush of history. The breath of the Nile. And the slow, gentle rhythm of rest. Sleep now. Sleep gently. Sleep fully. Let the dreaming river carry you the rest of the way. Good night. Hello there. Before we begin, find a place where you can get comfortable. Let your shoulders drop. Take a slow breath in, and exhale gently. This time is yours, a moment of stillness. Let the noise of the day drift away like a leaf floating on the surface of a quiet river. You're about to take a journey, not one that requires movement or effort, but a gentle wander through memory and imagination. Back to a world long gone. To a place where humanity first built its cities, wrote its thoughts in clay, and watched the stars from rooftops under a soft, endless sky. Tonight, we're traveling back in time, to a peaceful evening in ancient Mesopotamia. Imagine a place where the rivers cradle the land, where the Tigris and Euphrates slowly weave their way through fertile plains, and the golden sun sinks behind rows of palm trees and tall reeds swaying in the breeze. This was a land of quiet marvels, of bustling morning markets and tranquil twilight hours, of soft sandals on clay streets, and flickering oil lamps lighting up the silence of night. And now, as the day draws to a close in ancient Mesopotamia, you are there. Not as a historian, not as a visitor, but as someone who lives there, someone who knows the pace of the place, who feels the hush of dusk settling over rooftops and fields. The wind is gentle, the world is winding down. And you are just beginning to rest. Let's take our time now, and settle into that moment. That soft, golden edge of nightfall, over 4,000 years ago. Where stillness was sacred, and sleep came softly. The sun has dipped lower now. Its rays stretch long across the land, casting gentle shadows over the fields and homes of southern Mesopotamia, in what is today southern Iraq. You are in a small riverside town, not one known to kings or conquerors, but a quiet, working settlement. Tucked between soft-banked irrigation canals and date groves, filled with homes made of sun-dried mud brick, clustered together like earth-toned honeycombs. Your name is not important. Your place in this world is simple. You live in one of these homes, a modest structure with a flat roof, a shaded courtyard, and walls that hold the warmth of the sun even after dusk falls. You've spent much of your day tending to the small barley field just behind your home. It's not far, really, nothing in this town is. You've watered the rows slowly using narrow canals carved by hand. Checked on the reeds near the riverbank, where your neighbor's goats sometimes graze. And now, as twilight approaches, your tools are leaned gently against the wall. A simple wooden hoe. A woven basket with the last bits of chaff still clinging to its edge. Work is done for the day. And that means it's time to return home, where the quiet part of life begins. The streets here aren't paved. They're hard-packed dirt, smoothed by years of feet passing by. Sandals made from woven reeds. Footprints of children running after one another with clay dolls in their hands. You walk slowly, hearing the soft hush of your own footsteps as you pass the homes of your neighbors. Faint voices drift through narrow doorways, parents calling children, women pounding grain in stone mortars, and the echo of laughter from a rooftop where a family has gathered to watch the last glow of sun. There are no carts racing by, no loud cries of merchants anymore. The market has long since closed. Only the occasional bray of a distant donkey or the slow creak of a clay jar being lifted from the well reminds you that the day was ever busy at all. You pass a low shrine, one of many in the town, where a little figure of baked clay stands in a niche. A household deity, perhaps. Someone has left a pinch of grain nearby, and the oil lamp beside it flickers quietly in the warm air. And then, there it is. Your home. You push open a wooden door held together with twine, stepping into the small shaded entryway. It smells faintly of cool earth and last night's lentils. The interior is dim, the kind of soft light your eyes don't need time to adjust to. They know it well. There are 2 small rooms and a covered courtyard where a sleeping mat is already laid out, tucked beneath a lattice of reeds that offer a breeze but keep the insects away. A bowl of dates sits on a low table, and your youngest child is sitting near the hearth, humming softly as they shape a piece of clay into something, a little bird, or perhaps a fish. They smile when they see you, and it's the kind of smile that doesn't need words. Someone stirs a pot over the fire, your wife, or your brother, or your cousin's wife, depending on who has arrived home first today. You hear the small clink of a clay spoon tapping gently against the rim. The fire crackles in its slow stone pit. Outside, the last golden light of evening pours down, filtered by the wooden slats of the courtyard's roof, turning the floor into a quilt of warm shadows and amber beams. The heat of the day still lingers in the walls, but the air is finally starting to cool. This is a time for slowing down, for hands to rest and voices to soften. You sit, cross-legged, near the doorway. A shallow bowl of water has been placed beside you, and you wash your hands in silence. The day washes away like dust in the stream, leaving only stillness behind. From the rooftop, you can hear a neighbor singing, very softly, almost like a whisper. It's not a song meant to entertain, but to comfort. A song sung by a grandmother long ago, passed down like a recipe for calm. All around you, the town exhales. A peaceful breath shared by every rooftop and every shaded room. Now that you've returned home, you take in the small but comforting space you've built over the years. Your home, like most in the village, is made from the earth itself. Sun-dried mud bricks, carefully shaped and stacked by hand, held together with straw and clay mortar. The bricks give off the faint scent of dust and time, warm from the heat of the day, still gently radiating it like the skin of a sun-warmed stone. The house is simple, but it holds everything you need. Inside, the walls are smooth, painted with a thin layer of clay plaster, tinted with gentle colors from natural pigments, pale reds, faded blues, soft ochres. There are few possessions, but each one is familiar, well used, well loved. A narrow shelf holds little jars of herbs and grain. Another shelf holds reed baskets, folded linen, and a small jar of honey sealed with wax. The floor is packed earth, cool and firm beneath your feet. A few woven mats have been placed where the family tends to sit, near the fire, and by the sleeping spaces. You notice the light dimming slightly as the sun finally slips behind the western horizon. One of the children brings an oil lamp, made of clay, shaped like a little boat, with a soft flame dancing at the wick. The flame flickers gently in the breeze, casting soft shadows against the wall. It smells faintly of sesame oil, warm, nutty, and earthy. You settle into your usual place in the courtyard. Dinner is nearly ready, lentils stewed with garlic, a bit of onion, and flat barley bread still warm from the small dome oven outside. But before dinner, there are always the little rituals of home. You check the water jar, a tall clay vessel with cool sides and a small opening to keep the contents fresh. You take a ladle and pour yourself a drink, clear, slightly cool water, drawn from the town's well just that morning. Then, you move to the rooftop, just for a moment. Many families sleep on the rooftops in this season. The air up here is cooler. A few other homes nearby already have sleeping mats laid out. You see neighbors, faces you've known for years, adjusting pillows, folding thin sheets, lighting a few more oil lamps. No one speaks loudly. A soft nod is enough. A gentle wave. The language of winding down. From here, you can look out across the village. The roofs look like steps in the landscape, stacked gently above one another, broken only by the swaying silhouettes of date palms and the faint outlines of grain storage huts. You hear a soft rustling sound, a broom being used in a neighboring courtyard. Twilight chores. Light ones. Perhaps a few bowls being washed. A goat being brought into a shelter. A pair of sandals hung from a hook to dry. These chores aren't labor. Not in the way the fields are. They're soft motions. Rhythmic, calming. Part of the closing song of the day. You return to your courtyard and join your family as they gather around the low table. The air smells of flatbread, smoky and rich, and lentils, soft and fragrant. Everyone sits cross-legged. No chairs here. Just mats and folded cloths. A piece of bread is passed to you, still warm from the clay oven. You break off a piece and use it to scoop the lentils from the communal bowl. There's no need for conversation now. Everyone knows the pace of this hour. The youngest child hums quietly to herself. Someone chuckles. A baby stirs in someone's arms. The mood is easy, calm. There's no sense of hurry. No place to be but here. As dinner finishes, you lean back on your hands. Someone offers a fig, dried and sweet. It sticks to your fingers slightly. You chew it slowly. The sweetness lingers as the night deepens. A breeze rustles the date palm outside. You close your eyes for a moment, just listening to the hush of the world, thousands of years ago, where people, not so different from you, found peace in these same quiet hours, before the meal was served. Before the family sat beneath the courtyard canopy to share food and stories in the twilight glow. There was preparation. Not rushed, not loud, but methodical, familiar, peaceful. The rhythm of the Mesopotamian kitchen was a quiet one. Meals weren't measured in recipes, but in instinct and tradition, passed down from elder to child like the words of a bedtime song. It begins with grain. Barley, mostly, the lifeblood of Sumer and Akkad. Kept in a tall jar near the corner of the house, the grain is scooped out with a clay cup, and poured slowly into a shallow basin. You imagine the soft rustle it makes. Grains tumbling gently over one another, like dry river stones. A rhythmic motion follows, the round stone of the cairn grinding back and forth, back and forth. Not hurried, but steady. The sound of ancient kitchens, a woman's hands, firm but calm, moving the stone over and over again. It turns the barley into coarse flour. Grainy, nutty, pale gold. Nearby, another bowl holds lentils, soaked earlier, now soft and swollen, ready to cook. In a low pit made of stone and clay, someone has coaxed a fire to life. It isn't large, just enough to flicker beneath a flat clay griddle, or warm a small copper pot. The scent of smoke curls into the air. Wood smoke. Soft and ancient. A handful of wild onions is chopped, not with steel, but with a sharpened bronze blade. The pieces drop into the pot with a hushed sizzle. Oil, pressed from sesame seeds, is added by hand, poured from a clay jug with a curved spout. And then the lentils go in, too. The water bubbles slowly. A pinch of salt. A bit of crushed garlic. Maybe a handful of crushed herbs dried earlier that week, gathered from the edge of the canal. There's no rush. Dinner isn't an event. It's a process of comfort. It's part of what winds the world down. Nearby, someone begins to knead the barley dough. It's coarse and thick, speckled with hulls and ground seeds. Hands move slowly over it, folding and pressing, until small flat rounds can be shaped and set on the warm griddle. They puff slightly, browning at the edges. Not evenly, but beautifully. Every motion in this twilight kitchen feels like memory. You can imagine a grandmother, decades ago, performing the same task. Her hands moving in the same way, her breath soft and steady as the bread rose over the fire. Children gather now, watching the process. They've brought their clay toys, small figures of bulls and birds. One girl holds a flute made of reed. She blows softly into it, the sound thin and high, like a bird's call carried on the wind. Soon, the pot is taken off the fire. The bread is stacked on a cloth. And the food is carried to the low table in the courtyard, where the family waits in that deepening light. This is how dinner comes together. Not in haste. Not in noise. But with the rhythm of old traditions, the kind that held families close for thousands of years. Even in this moment, as you rest, and your eyelids grow a little heavier, you might picture the kitchen in the warm shadows, the soft flame, and the scent of baked barley. A world so far away. And yet, so familiar. Dinner has come and gone now. The pots are rinsed and set aside. The flames have died down into soft red coals, and the evening air carries with it a coolness that whispers across your skin. In Mesopotamia, the rooftops were not just roofs, they were living spaces. And as night settles over your town, the rooftop becomes a quiet observatory, a temple of stars, a storyteller's stage. You and your family climb the narrow steps at the side of the courtyard, worn smooth by generations of hands and feet. The roof is flat, made of tightly packed earth over wooden beams. A sleeping mat has already been laid out. Thin pillows, a woven blanket, and an extra oil lamp sit beside it. You settle in. The sky above you is vast, endless, open. And slowly, as the last light fades from the horizon, the stars begin to appear, one by one, like soft pinpricks in dark velvet. The world quiets around you. No engines. No electricity. Just the slow rustle of palm leaves. The distant call of a night bird. And the crackle of someone's last lamp being lit across the street. You lie back, hands behind your head, and stare upward. Your oldest son points out the bright one, Venus, perhaps. To the ancient Mesopotamians, it was Inanna, the goddess of love and war. They believed she danced across the sky, fierce and beautiful, and that her movements foretold changes in the world below. Another child calls out a star near the horizon. Your uncle nods. That's the Star of Gilgamesh, he says softly. Long ago, he ruled a great city called Uruk. But even kings must walk beneath the stars. The rooftop becomes a circle of memory now. Stories rise like smoke, old tales, passed from grandparent to parent to child. Stories about gods who walked on earth. about storms sent by angry deities, and about heroes who sailed down rivers to find the secrets of life and death. The constellations weren't just lights in the sky. They were signs, symbols, reminders of who the people were, and where they came from. You listen as your father, his voice low and calm, retells the tale of Enki, the god of fresh water. Enki who lived beneath the Abzu, the watery deep. Enki who gave knowledge to humankind, quietly, like water filling a vessel. You close your eyes. You can see it all, a glowing river of stars above you, and the gods watching from their distant thrones. The night is thick with silence now, but it is not empty. It is full of meaning, soft and ancient. You breathe in deeply. The air is cooler now, and the stars are clearer. Somewhere nearby, another rooftop echoes with laughter, two children pretending to be gods, staging a quiet play under the stars. And somewhere else, a mother sings a lullaby in a voice too soft to travel far. You look up once more. The constellations begin to shift as the night deepens. Orion, the shepherd of heaven. Taurus, the bull of the sky. And near the center, a pattern the Mesopotamians believed was the heavenly river, the Milky Way. So many stories. And yet all of them felt peaceful. No need to rush to the end. Just let the words drift. Let the sky turn. And let the silence return. You curl onto your side. The blanket is thin, but enough. The mat beneath you is firm and familiar. The voices around you are softer now. And the stars above you blink slowly, patiently. As if waiting to guard your sleep, the stars now hold their places in the sky. They no longer flicker into being, they simply shine. Still. Constant. Like they always have. Long before your village stood beside the river, long before clay tablets bore the names of kings. Below them, the town rests. In the distance, you hear the soft bleating of a goat in its pen, a clay door gently swinging on its rope hinge, the faint echo of sandals brushing the ground. These are not the sounds of movement, but of stillness settling in. The kind of sounds that mark the boundary between wakefulness and dreaming. The city, if you can call this small town a city, has gone quiet. The market stalls have been covered with palm-woven mats. The last embers of the communal kiln have faded to a soft orange glow. The scribes, who worked in the schoolroom by the temple, have set aside their reed pens. And even the old dog that lies outside the shrine has curled into himself and begun to breathe in a rhythm slow and even. Night has arrived. You lie still on the rooftop mat, but your senses are still gently awake, noticing, absorbing the coolness of the air. The way the wind tugs softly at the edge of your blanket. The faint scent of clay dust rising from the ground, warmed by day but cooling under the stars. You feel safe. In Mesopotamian towns, safety was built not just in walls or gates, but in people. Neighbors who knew each other's names, families that shared meals, elders who watched the street even after sunset. A small guard post exists near the temple. Not for war, but for calm. A man with a spear and a cloak walks the short path between shrine and square, not to fight off danger, but simply to watch. To be there. To be present. His footsteps are soft, rhythmic. You've heard them before, every night, the same cadence, the same pause, the same quiet cough as he rounds the corner near your home. It's a ritual in itself. The sound of the city watching over itself. Somewhere not far away, the ziggurat rises, that towering staircase to the heavens. It watches over your village, standing silent and heavy in the moonlight. Its corners are sharp, its steps steep, but in this light it looks soft. A stone mountain that keeps your dreams close to the sky. Inside, the priests have completed their offerings for the day. The incense has burned down. The clay tokens have been set in order. and even the scribe who recorded the day's events has kept his inkpot and left the chamber still. Night in ancient Mesopotamia was not feared. It was respected. It was for reflection, for sleep, for dreaming of the gods and the stars and the river's long, winding story. And so, the city rests. Even the river seems to hush its waters. Its currents move quietly past the town's edge, lapping against the reeds, brushing the banks in time with the breath of the world. In your home, others sleep near you. Children, curled against pillows. An elder, their hand resting beside a bowl of dried figs. A sibling's soft snore. You are not alone, and yet you are completely still. You hear your own breathing now, slow, even, matching the rhythm of the night. If you were to open your eyes, you'd see the dim orange glow of a nearby oil lamp. But you don't. You simply rest. Because the world is quiet now. Because time has slowed. Because you have arrived at the part of the evening where the stars begin to blur, and the line between memory and dream gently disappears. The city is still. The sky is high. And you are safe. The village is still now. Completely, utterly still. You've turned onto your side. The thin blanket pulled just over your shoulder. Your fingers rest lightly against the woven mat beneath you, feeling the small grooves, familiar, textured, comforting. Above you, the stars remain. But you're no longer looking at them. You know they're there. You can feel their presence, like old friends watching from far away. The rooftop beneath you is warm from the day. The sky above you is cool from the night. Your breath is soft. Your heartbeat is slow. And your mind is floating between now and then. Between waking and sleep. Somewhere in the distance, you hear a final whisper of life, maybe a night bird, or a pot being moved gently across stone. But it fades. Everything is fading now. Not disappearing. Just softening. Like ink diluted in warm water. You think of the people of this place, of Mesopotamia, not as figures in books, but as real, and tender, and peaceful. You think of how they watched the same stars, walked the same dusty streets, cooked the same barley and lentils, and told their children the same quiet stories you've heard tonight. And you wonder, were their dreams like yours? Did they dream of rivers? Of distant gods and familiar faces? Of the moon, and the morning to come? You think they did. You think they laid just like you are now, wrapped in woven cloth, a breeze on their face, a constellation in their mind's eye, and the hush of the earth all around them. You can imagine them. 1,000 years ago, 1,000 miles away. Drifting into sleep in the same way you are now. You are no longer a visitor here. You are part of the night. Part of the rhythm. A breath in the silence. There's nothing left to do. No more moments to chase. No more sounds to hear. Only sleep. Soft, ancient, still sleep. Let it come, gently. Let it fold over you like the desert air. Let your thoughts drift like the Euphrates, slow and calm and endless. Let the rooftops of Mesopotamia fade from view. Let the stars blink slowly. Let your mind grow still. And sleep. Sleep. Sleep.
Take a moment. Let the room grow still around you. The day is behind you now, and there's nowhere you need to be. Nothing left to do. Close your eyes. Let your breath slow. We are going on a quiet journey, far away from today, and deeper into a world long gone. We're heading to the Roman countryside. Not the Rome of emperors and armies. Not the noisy forums or marble palaces. But to the peaceful roads, the forgotten lanes. Where soft winds stir the olive trees, and distant footsteps echo gently on worn stones. This is the Rome of quiet farms, sleepy inns, and fields that shimmer beneath the golden sun. So come with me now. Step softly onto the path, and let the old world welcome you.
It is early morning in Latium, the central heartland of ancient Rome. A gentle mist clings to the vineyards, and the sun is only just brushing the tops of the cypress trees. Somewhere not far from the great city gates, a stone road stretches southward, the Via Appia, the queen of roads. But we're not walking its busiest stretch. We've taken a smaller branch, a quieter route, curving through rolling hills and farmland. There is a traveler here. Perhaps it's you. Your steps are slow and unhurried. A soft breeze follows you, carrying the scent of crushed thyme and damp earth. You pass beneath a crumbling milestone. The letters are ancient, weathered by time, but still proud. It reads, "To Archaea, 12 miles. A small town nestled among the hills. We'll reach it before nightfall." Along the way, there is no rush. Only the rhythm of the road, the hum of distant bees, and the whisper of wind through tall grass. This is not the Rome of legend. This is the Rome of daily life. And we are just passing through. On either side of the road now, olive groves stretch like old guardians of the land. The trees are gnarled and ancient, their trunks twisted with age. They have stood here for hundreds of years, long before even Caesar walked these roads. A shepherd sits beneath one, tuning a small reed pipe. He plays no song yet, just listening to the sounds of the morning. His flock grazes nearby, white dots moving slowly among the green. The birds begin to wake. A lark calls out. A dove responds. The music of the countryside is soft and never hurried. Sometimes, a cart creaks past, pulled by a sleepy donkey, carrying jugs of olive oil or baskets of figs. The driver nods a slow greeting, then continues on. The road is not empty. It lives and breathes, quietly. In the fields beyond, a woman tends a patch of herbs. She pauses to lift her face to the sun, eyes closed, as if to catch a memory drifting on the morning breeze. And in that moment, everything feels still. Time is thick and slow here. Around mid-morning, you come across a small roadside mutatio, a way station where tired travelers may rest their animals, and sometimes themselves. It's not much, a stone structure with a tiled roof, shaded by a fig tree. A clay jar stands outside, filled with cool water. Someone has left a bunch of fresh rosemary tucked in its neck. The scent is soft and comforting. An old man tends the station. His tunic is simple, and his hands are stained with oil from repairing wagon wheels. But his eyes are kind, and he waves you over. "Sit," he says gently, gesturing to a low stone bench. "So you do." He brings you bread and soft cheese wrapped in fig leaves. He doesn't ask questions. Travelers come and go. Stories pass like clouds. For a while, you simply sit, listening to the wind. The breeze shifts the branches of the fig tree, and a few ripe fruits drop to the ground with a soft thud. The road is quiet today. And there is no hurry. Just past the station, nestled between two tall poplars, is a lararium, a small roadside shrine. It honors the Lares, the guardian spirits of the land and home. Someone has left offerings here, a sprig of laurel, a small shell, a bit of honeycomb wrapped in cloth, all placed gently, with reverence. You stop for a moment. There is a stillness in the air. Even the birds seem to quiet, just for a breath. In the time of the Romans, it was common to honor the spirits of the land. Every path, every farm, every threshold had its guardians. And so travelers gave thanks, not out of fear, but gratitude. Gratitude for a safe journey, for soft weather, for the kindness of strangers. You leave a small pebble, smooth and warm from your pocket. It is enough. and as you step away, the wind picks up slightly, stirring the long grasses beside the road. Perhaps the spirits are watching. Or perhaps it's just the breeze. Either way, the road stretches on. By midday, the path rises gently. You climb into the low hills, where the land grows quiet again. Fields of barley ripple like golden waves in the wind. And far in the distance, the outline of Arkea becomes faintly visible, tucked among the wooded slopes. But we are in no hurry to reach it. Here, in these hills, there is peace. A few goats cross the road ahead, their bells soft as whispers. A child herding them raises a hand in greeting, then vanishes behind a stone wall. You pause to drink from a stream. The water is cold and clean, flowing over pebbles worn smooth since the days of the Republic. Above you, hawks circle silently. And beneath your feet, the earth is warm. You lie back on the grass for a moment, letting the quiet settle around you like a blanket. You feel the heartbeat of the land beneath you. Slow, ancient, still. The road will wait. For now, just breathe. The road continues, winding gently along a ridge, past sloping terraces of farmland that roll like waves in a sleeping sea. Here, a family of farmers tends to the wheat. But there is no rush in their movements. The sun is warm but not harsh, and the breeze keeps the air moving, slow and steady, like lullaby. A young woman scatters seeds for chickens near the farmhouse, her long robe swaying with her steps. A boy nearby gathers olives into a basket, stopping now and then to chase a sleepy lizard into the underbrush. The house is made of pale stone, with wooden shutters and a tiled roof. Smoke curls from its chimney, not thick or urgent, just the soft sign of something cooking gently inside. The scent of fresh bread carries across the fields. There is laughter in the distance, though even that sounds hushed by the air. These are lives lived quietly, shaped by soil, season, and sun. You walk slowly by, offering a nod. They wave in return. No words are needed. Travelers are expected here, even welcomed. Not far down the road, you spot a small roadside tavern, a taberna viatoria, meant for passing travelers. It's low and wide, built of rough stone with red clay tiles. A wooden sign hangs from an iron hook, swaying gently with the wind. There's a faded image painted on it, a loaf of bread and a cup of wine. A promise of simple things. Inside, the air is cool. Shaded from the sun, it smells of herbs, bread, and the faint sharpness of wine. The innkeeper is a woman with sun-lined skin and a quiet voice. She shows you to a seat near a window, where grapevines twist around the sill. You are served lentil soup, warm and full of garlic and rosemary. With it comes flatbread still soft from the oven and a cup of watered wine, not strong, just enough to soften the edges of a day. No one speaks loudly here. A merchant naps near the hearth. A soldier writes in a small notebook by the light. Outside, a bee hums lazily past the open door. As you step outside again, a small brown dog trots up beside you. It's not clear where he came from, perhaps from the tavern, perhaps from the fields. But he walks beside you like an old companion. His ears twitch with each sound. Now and then, he pauses to sniff a stone or investigate a beetle, before rejoining you, trotting with gentle confidence. You pass through a grove of almond trees. Their bark is pale and soft, their leaves dancing quietly above. Some nuts have already fallen, and the dog noses one curiously before sneezing and leaving it alone. There's a small villa here, not grand or noble, but neat. Its door is painted red, its courtyard swept. An older couple tends to flower pots, laughing softly over the growth of their basil. The dog sits beside the gate and waits patiently. You pause too, listening. They do not notice you. And that's fine. Some moments aren't meant to be interrupted. You walk on, and the dog follows. Farther along the road, you come across a curious sight, faint carvings in a flat stone at the edge of the path. They look like old names, scratched in with knives or sticks. Marcus was here. Julia walked to our IKEA. A small drawing of a fish, another of a sandal. It's graffiti, ancient and forgotten, left by travelers long past. Not vandalism. More like whispers from the past. You crouch to look closer. One reads, "Safe roads and soft winds." A blessing. Perhaps from a soldier. Or a mother sending her child to market. Even on quiet roads, people leave traces. Fleeting marks. Simple stories. You don't write anything, not today. But you remember them. As you walk, their names walk with you. As the afternoon wears on, you enter a small cypress grove. The trees stand tall and narrow, like sentinels. Their needles rustle softly in the wind, and the shadows beneath them are long and cool. The dog lies down beneath one, resting his chin on his paws. You sit too, leaning back against the trunk. The bark is rough but grounding, and the scent of the resin is sharp and clean. You can hear the rustle of a lizard in the leaves. And far away, a shepherd sings to himself, a tune meant only for the sheep, drifting like mist on the wind. Above you, small birds hop from branch to branch. Their feathers shimmer in the sun like old bronze. You close your eyes, just for a moment. There's no need to keep walking yet. The road is still there. But so is this quiet place. And for now, this is enough. The path gently rises once again. Not steep, just a slow, winding slope that draws you upward into the folds of the land. Each step is quiet. The soles of your sandals scuff softly on the gravel and dust. The road curves like a ribbon through the open hills, where grass sways in long, unbroken stretches. Farmland gives way now to open countryside, places where no walls mark the fields, and the horizon stretches wide and low. The sky here seems larger. The clouds more deliberate in their motion, like drifting thoughts too lazy to form into words. A shepherd passes you on the ridge, leading 3 tired sheep and carrying a flute carved from olive wood. He nods to you, the brief, timeless nod of one traveler to another, and continues on, leaving behind a gentle tune that fades slowly with the wind. You pause to breathe deeply. The air smells faintly of lavender and dry rock. The warmth of the sun has settled into your shoulders. And somewhere nearby, a hawk cries, not sharp, not fierce, just part of the silence. Around the next bend, tucked under the arms of 2 leaning oak trees, sits a stone altar, worn and softened by centuries of wind and rain. It's not marked on any map, and even the locals might not know its name. But it once belonged to someone, perhaps a shepherd's offering place, or a small country shrine to a half-forgotten god. Small objects still rest atop it. A smooth shell. A single feather. A broken ring. Not grand tributes, but private ones, left by quiet hands. There is no inscription anymore. The letters have faded into the stone like dreams. But the shape of the altar is still proud, still waiting, as if listening for footsteps that rarely come. You sit beside it for a while. Not praying. Just being. The wind rustles through the oaks above you. A butterfly flits past. And for a moment, the world feels like it's breathing with you, slow, warm, and alive. Later, you come to a section of road that is slightly sunken, cut deeply between banks of rock, worn down by centuries of footfall and wheel tracks. The walls are carved here. Not deliberately, just shaped by time. But if you run your fingers along the stone, you feel the gentle indentations of thousands of hands. The path has memory. Footprints long faded have become the very texture of the earth. A wagon passed here. A soldier returned from campaign. A child walked ahead of her mother, kicking pebbles into the ditch. You imagine them, ghosts not of fear, but of simple living. And for a moment, it feels as if the road remembers you too. You pause. A small leaf drifts down from above, landing on your shoulder before continuing on its way. The world offers no signs, no answers. Only presence. Only peace. Deeper in the hills, you find a grove where the trees grow denser, laurel and ash, thick with shadow. Here, hidden among the trunks, is a shrine to Silvanus, the Roman god of woods and fields. It's nothing grand. Just a simple stone figure nestled between two tree roots. Moss has grown across his legs, and ivy winds over his arms. But his face remains, bearded and kind, eyes closed in contentment. Someone has left acorns in his lap. And beside him, a tiny clay cup filled with rainwater. You sit on a rock nearby. The forest sounds surround you, the soft flutter of birds, the faint creak of branches, and your own breathing, slow and even. You don't say anything. Silvanus doesn't need prayers. He is already here, in the trees, in the ground, in the stillness. You stay until the sun begins to lean. At last, the trees begin to thin, and you find yourself standing on a small rise. Below you, the valley stretches wide and golden, fields, orchards, rivers, and tiny villas scattered like pebbles on a blanket. The sky has begun to shift toward late afternoon. The light has turned honey-colored. The shadows are long. The little dog, still by your side, sits and watches with you. For a moment, there is nothing to do but look. The world spreads quietly before you. You don't think of Rome. You don't think of where you've been. You simply are. A bird glides past, casting a long shadow over the road. And then, slowly, you begin walking again. Toward the dusk. Toward rest. Toward Archaea. As the road winds lower, you begin to see signs of life again. The quiet hills give way to signs of a village, small, whitewashed homes with red clay roofs, gardens fenced with woven branches, and thin plumes of smoke rising from hearths. You've reached the outskirts of Archaea, not a city, but a sleepy town with Etruscan roots and Roman touches. It is a place where people still live close to the land, though the Via Appia passes not far away. A child runs barefoot down the lane with a stick, chasing chickens. A woman scrubs linen in a wooden basin, humming a tune that sounds like it was passed from her grandmother. Two old men sit in the shade of a stone wall, rolling dice slowly and sipping watered wine. The scent of fennel and garlic drifts from an open window. There is no noise, no urgency, just the quiet rhythm of a village preparing for evening. And the dog beside you, still with you since midday, trots ahead confidently now, as if he knows the place. Perhaps he does. Soon, you reach the center of the village, a small, open square paved with uneven stones. It is not crowded, not bustling. Just active, like a gentle breath. Vendors pack up their goods as the sun dips lower. A woman sells dried figs and almonds from a basket. An old man with a cart of clay jugs offers a sample of honeyed wine to anyone passing by. There's a sound of clinking, not coins, but metal tools being packed away. A blacksmith across the square wipes his brow and stretches his arms, the day's work done. A boy with a flute tries to play a song but keeps giggling halfway through. In the far corner, a painted wooden statue of Diana, the guardian of this region, stands beside a small altar. Fresh rosemary has been laid at her feet. You buy a small loaf of bread. still warm. And as you sit on the edge of a dry fountain to eat, a cat curls up beside you, purring softly into the stone. There's no need for a feast. Just bread, a little wine, and the sound of people being people. As the sky turns lavender, a soft bell rings in the distance. You turn to see a group of shepherds returning through the lower gate. Their cloaks are dusted with straw. Their sheep move slowly, heads low, content and tired. The lead shepherd carries a crooked staff and hums something low and wordless. Villagers come out to greet them. A young girl hugs her brother, who has returned with the flock. A woman hands a bundle of herbs to one of the men, perhaps something for supper, perhaps a thank you. The sheep shuffle through the square toward the pens, their bells soft and steady. The sun dips lower still. A man lights a small oil lamp near the altar of Diana. The flame flickers against the cooling stone. The market is empty now. The last cart rolls away. But the voices remain, soft and familiar, like water in a shallow stream. Now the village begins to settle. Oil lamps flicker in windows. Children are called inside, their play ending in laughter and yawns. Dogs bark once, then fall silent. A pot simmers somewhere. The scent of bay leaves drifts through the square. You wander a little, past homes and courtyards. Some doors are open, some closed, but all of them glow faintly with a warm, golden flicker of firelight. You hear a lullaby, sung softly in Latin, not clear enough to understand the words, but gentle, like water rocking a boat. The dog by your side walks a little slower now, his tail low, his steps sleepy. You come to a stone bench under a fig tree and sit down. Above you, the first stars begin to appear, faint and ancient. Somewhere nearby, a wooden chime tinkles softly in the breeze. And for a long while, you don't move. You are held here, not by force, but by stillness. The kind that settles gently on the soul. You rise once more, taking the road out of the village now, just a short stretch left, a path that leads to the grove above Arakia. The air is cooler, but not cold. Crickets sing softly. The sky is darker now, painted in deep blues and scattered silver. You hear only your own footsteps, and the gentle padding of the dog beside you. Then, a breeze passes, and with it, a scent. Lavender, hearth fire, a distant fig tree. You climb slowly, step by step, to the top of the small rise where the road curves. From here, you can see the valley below. Lights of the village glow like fireflies. The land feels like a dream, stretched out in stillness, as if caught in the last deep breath of the day. And so, you sit. Not to wait. Not to think. Just to rest. The road has brought you here. And tomorrow, perhaps, it will lead you onward. But tonight, there is nothing left to do. Only this moment. Only peace. You sit quietly on the small hill, just above the village of Arakia. The sky is deepening, turning from indigo to navy, and then slowly to a soft velvet black. The stars have arrived. Not all at once, but one by one, like lanterns being lit in the great sky hall above you. There is no moon tonight, or perhaps she's resting behind the hills. Either way, the darkness is gentle, not frightening. It wraps around you like a soft cloak, full of old stories and quiet breaths. Below, the village glows faintly. Just dots of golden light now. The laughter is gone. The voices are hushed. Only the night creatures sing, crickets in the dry grass, the occasional owl calling softly through the olive trees. And the dog, curled beside you, breathes in slow, steady rhythm. His ears twitch once, then settle. You lean back, resting on your elbows, and look upward. The stars seem to know something. Something old and slow and peaceful. You don't need to know it. It's enough just to be under them. As the night deepens, your thoughts begin to slow, not heavy, not restless. Just long and smooth, like river stones underwater. You begin to remember. Not facts, not details, but sensations. The soft crunch of gravel under your feet that morning. The smell of rosemary in the way station. The quiet nod of the shepherd. The way the child's laughter echoed near the market. The creak of the old tavern sign. All of it has passed through you gently, like wind, like water. You think of the offerings at the roadside shrine, the old altar nestled beneath the oaks, the carved graffiti left by forgotten hands. Each one, a tiny voice. Not calling loudly, just whispering, "We were here too." You run your hand along the earth beside you. It feels warm, even now. Beneath this land, beneath all the dust and stone and memory, people once lived as you have lived, slowly, softly, with time to look, and time to rest. You sigh. Not from sadness, but from fullness. The road has been long, and beautiful, and quiet. Later, much later, you rise and walk slowly back into the village. A friend of the tavern woman has left a guest room open. A simple space. Stone floor. Wooden bed. A folded blanket of wool. A clay lamp burns gently on a small table. The flame flickers with a rhythm all its own. You step inside and close the door. No latch. No lock. Just quiet. You sit for a moment on the edge of the bed. Remove your sandals. Loosen your cloak. The dog circles once, then curls at the foot of the bed with a huff of contentment. The lamp crackles softly. Its glow casts shadows on the wall, shapes like leaves, like waves, like dreams waiting just beyond the edge of sleep. You lie down. The blanket is heavy and cool at first, then warm. The pillow smells faintly of herbs and clean linen. And the quiet is deep. Not the quiet of emptiness, but of completeness. Everything is done. The day has arrived at its end. And the road has carried you gently here. Lying still, your breath slows. You feel it, the way your chest rises and falls in time with something larger, something older. The earth itself. The countryside is not silent. It sleeps, but it does not stop. The wind moves gently through olive groves. A cicada sings once, then is quiet. The stars turn slowly in their silent orbit. And your breath joins them. You are not apart from this world. You are woven into it, like thread in a great tapestry, unseen but essential. The land remembers you. The road has accepted you. And the sleep that finds you now is deep and ancient. The oil lamp burns lower now. Its glow fades slowly, like a tide receding. The dog stirs once, then is still. Your limbs are heavy. Your thoughts are dim stars on a dark sea. The road still runs through your dreams, winding gently through hills, past shrines, through olive groves and stone paths. But there is no need to walk it now. You are already home. No more steps. No more sounds. Only sleep. And far away, the quiet roads wait. Whenever you wish to walk them again. Welcome, dear listener. Take a deep breath, and let it out slowly. You're here now, safe and calm. Let the gentle rustling of history soothe your thoughts. Tonight, we journey far away. To a sun-warmed world, where white columns line winding stone paths, and the scent of olive groves lingers in the air. This is not a history lecture, nor a tale of heroes or wars. This is the soft story of daily life. Of people in sandals walking slowly along quiet courtyards. Of cool clay cups filled with sweet wine, and lazy afternoons beneath fig trees. You're about to step into the tranquil world of leisure. In ancient Greece. Let your mind float. Let the day fade. And let us begin. The sun has just risen above the hills of Attica. Its golden light creeps down whitewashed stone homes, glinting on terracotta roofs. In the quiet courtyards of Athens, the day begins not with urgency, but with rhythm. Slow and thoughtful. A clay water jar is lifted, poured gently into a shallow basin. The splash echoes lightly against marble walls as a young man washes sleep from his face. Nearby, an older woman stirs a pot of barley porridge over a low fire, the scent mixing with faint jasmine from the garden. In this world, leisure is woven into daily life, not something to be earned, but something to be honored. The ancient Greeks called it skol, a word that would one day become school. But to them, it meant more than study. It meant time to think, to reflect, to converse with others, and to live slowly. The agora, the open marketplace, is still quiet. A dog stretches in the shade of a column. A pair of young boys toss a leather ball made from stitched goat bladder. Their laughter is soft, carried by the warm morning breeze. Life begins gently in Athens. Later in the morning, near a shaded colonnade, an elderly man sits with his students beneath a canopy of vines. The air smells of ripe grapes and distant time. This is a common scene in Athens, leisure spent in dialectic, in calm conversation. The man speaks slowly, and the students listen, not hurried, not distracted. Their robes rustle gently in the breeze as they sip watered wine from ceramic cups. Ideas float between them like leaves in the air. To the ancient Greeks, the pursuit of wisdom was not a luxury. It was part of a life well lived. And leisure meant time to think deeply. This is not school as we know it. There are no schedules, no bells. Just questions and silence. And answers that unfold like petals, softly. By midday, the sun rests high in the sky. But down by the water's edge, the sea breeze is cool and constant. Children chase each other along the beach, their sandals kicked off, the wet sand clinging to their toes. Fishermen hum quietly as they repair their nets, each knot a rhythm known by memory. And in a shaded inlet, a man in a small wooden boat drifts lazily, one hand trailing in the clear water. To the Greeks, the sea was a companion. And leisure could be solitary too, time spent with waves, with thoughts, with the sun on one's shoulders. Lunch is simple, olives, figs, cheese, and bread softened in wine. There is no rush. The sea will be here tomorrow. As the sun begins to slope westward, the city stirs again. Citizens gather near the great theater carved into the hillside. It's time for a play, perhaps a comedy by Aristophanes, light and full of mischief. Or a quiet tragedy, slow and thoughtful. The stone seats are warm from the day's sun. People settle in, cloaks wrapped lightly around their shoulders. They laugh, softly, at familiar lines. The chorus moves in practiced harmony. Here, art and leisure blend, watching stories under the open sky. The Greeks believed in balance. Laughter and sorrow, thought and feeling. And leisure was the space where all of these could bloom. As evening drapes the city in soft lilac, the streets glow with lamplight. In a corner of the agora, two old friends play a game of betia, an early version of chess or checkers. Their fingers move the pieces slowly, with practiced ease. A boy nearby plays the aulos, a twin-piped flute, its soft notes winding between columns like mist. Others stroll in quiet groups, men and women talking of ideas, of crops, of poems. Leisure does not end with the day. It simply slows further, like the breath before sleep. In homes across the city, lamps are lit. Bread is shared. Children curl up on mats under woven blankets. The moon rises slowly, glowing above the Acropolis. Night settles fully, and the city falls into stillness. Only the distant sound of crickets and the rustle of olive branches in the wind remain. Some sit under the stars, talking quietly, sipping from clay cups. Others lie back on rooftop terraces, eyes on the constellations, stories written across the sky. The Greeks had names for them all. And in the silence of night, stories flowed freely. From lips to ears, from stars to hearts. Leisure was not escape. It was living well. Living gently. Living slow. As you lie here now, breathing slowly, perhaps you can feel a little of their peace. The hush of a world long past. Where even the gods, at night, would rest. You've reached the end of this first chapter. There's more to come. But for now, let your thoughts drift. Let the rhythms of old sandals on warm stones, and the whisper of fig trees in the breeze, guide you softly to sleep. Good night, traveler of time. And sleep well. Far from the stone streets of Athens, beyond the walls and the watchful eyes of marble statues, the land begins to soften. Rolling hills covered in wild thyme, winding dirt paths that lead to olive groves, and small white homes scattered like seashells along the countryside. This is where leisure breathes deeper, where the pace of life stretches, like a cat in the sun. A donkey plods gently down a rocky road, its hooves clicking against the earth. Behind it, an old man hums a slow song, leading it toward a quiet vineyard. Overhead, swallows dip and rise in the warm, late morning air. In these villages, time doesn't move by hours. It moves by sunlight, by the angle of the shadows, by the ripening of grapes, and the sound of a neighbor's flute. At the edge of a hill, vines grow in neat, twisting rows. Dark grapes swell gently under the sun, warmed from above, cooled from the earth. Among the vines, 3 workers move slowly, not rushing, never shouting. One whistles a tune as he ties up a fallen branch with twine. A little way off, beneath a fig tree, a woman sits with a clay jug of wine beside her. She watches the scene, fanning herself with a leaf, lost in quiet thought. This is not a time of work. It is a pause between tasks. A moment for shade, for taste, for quiet. Lunch is shared under a canopy of woven reeds. Soft goat cheese wrapped in grape leaves. Honey-soaked walnuts. Fresh bread dipped in olive oil. Wine, diluted with cool water, poured from a terracotta pitcher. The talk is gentle. A joke here, a proverb there. Nothing urgent. Nothing sharp. Only the slow rhythms of contentment. In the countryside, gymnasiums were not great marble halls. They were open places, shaded by tall plane trees, close to a stream. Young men exercised not for glory, but for balance, of mind and body. Here, in a sandy clearing, a group trains slowly. Running laps barefoot, feet padding against packed earth. Lifting stones not for show, but for strength. And afterward, resting on a long wooden bench, wiping sweat with linen cloth. Beside them, an older man speaks, not a trainer, but a philosopher. He reminds them that true health is found in quiet discipline. And that the body, like the mind, must not be pushed, but understood. Leisure here is not laziness. It is purposeful calm. They finish with wrestling, not brutal, but measured, respectful. And then, the soft sound of the stream nearby invites them to bathe. As the sun dips toward afternoon, the olive groves glow golden. In one grove, a gathering begins, not loud, but thoughtful. Villagers bring instruments, the kithara, the lyre, the aloes. A boy plucks the lyre softly, testing a melody. His sister hums beside him, her voice quiet like wind through trees. An old man begins a slow recitation of a poem. Not dramatic, but familiar, like lullaby. People gather in circles, leaning against tree trunks, sipping watered wine. Children lie on the grass, drawing shapes in the dust with sticks. The music swells, then fades. The silence between notes is just as sacred. For the Greeks, music wasn't only performance. It was medicine for the soul. A kind of shared dreaming. And in the countryside, it belonged to everyone. Every year, as the barley ripens and the wind carries dust from the fields, villages pause for the quietest of festivals, the harvest of Demeter. There is no loud procession. No great feasts. Just woven wreaths of grain placed on doorways. Offerings of bread and olives left at small rural shrines. And a peaceful afternoon where work stops, and people simply rest. Families sit outside their homes, grinding new grain slowly with stone. Children paint on pots with crushed berries. A traveling bard walks from village to village, sharing soft songs of the gods. This kind of festival is leisure in its most sacred form. A communal breath. A time to say, we have enough. As night falls, the hills darken into gentle silhouettes. Inside a simple stone house, a fire crackles softly. A grandmother stirs lentil soup in a wide clay pot. Nearby, a father tells stories to his sleepy children. His voice slow and low, like the coals beneath the flame. The windows are open. The stars blink quietly through them. A single oil lamp flickers. The scent of lavender, tucked beneath pillows, rises into the air. Here, leisure is not planned. It is lived. And night is not something to fill, but to embrace. In the quiet of the countryside, the evening brings not wild parties, but something far softer. The rural symposium, a gathering of friends, family, and neighbors in candlelit rooms or open courtyards. There is wine. Yes. But it is not for indulgence. It is for opening the heart. For soft conversation. And sometimes, gentle song. A host brings out low wooden tables. Clay cups are placed with care. Everyone reclines on pillows and woven mats, their feet bare, robes loosened. The wine is diluted with cool water from a well, poured slowly into painted crauters. And then the talking begins, stories of past harvests, of old loves, of strange dreams. One guest plays the kithara, another recites verses from memory. A young boy falls asleep in his mother's lap as his uncle tells tales of Persephone and springtime. The stars rise as cups are refilled, slower each time. And laughter fades into silence. This is leisure not for the body, but for the soul. While public life in Greece often favored men, rural homes held their own gentle worlds. And women, too, had their leisure. In a courtyard shaded by fig trees, a circle of women gathers with baskets of wool. They spin, they weave, not in haste, but in rhythm. Each thread a breath. Each movement a poem. As they work, they speak of births, of songs their mothers taught them, of weather and dreams. Children play nearby, but the women do not chase or scold. They glance with soft smiles. And go on weaving. On festival days, they offer honey cakes to Artemis. They sing hymns to Demeter, their voices hushed like wind in barley. Their leisure is hidden, quiet, sacred. Woven into the very cloth they make. Not all festivals were wild. Even the god of wine, Dionysus, was honored in calm ways among the hills. In the spring, when vines showed their first leaves, villagers would hold a rural Dionysia. Not with shouting, but with music, dancing, and storytelling. Elders wore masks of painted clay and acted out quiet comedies. Children sang choruses with reed flutes. And travelers brought tales of cities far away, told by firelight. At dusk, grapes were pressed gently in wooden tubs. The juice stained bare feet, and everyone laughed. Not loudly, but deeply. At night, poems were whispered to the stars. The god was not summoned with noise, but invited with joy. In the stillness of summer nights, when the full moon hung heavy and low, villagers would walk in silence to a grove dedicated to Artemis, goddess of wild places and peace. They brought simple offerings, fresh herbs, spring water in small jugs, loaves of bread wrapped in cloth. No torches, just the moonlight. There, in the grove, a priestess reads slow verses, and the people sat on the earth, breathing deeply, letting go of sorrow, inviting quiet. Sometimes, they sang, barely above a whisper. Other times, they simply listened to the wind and the leaves. Even children sat still here, because they knew this place was made for dreams. After the last sheaves of barley are cut, and the tools are put away, the fields are left to rest. So are the people. A family walks slowly across golden stubble, hands linked. They do not speak much. They feel the stillness. A young girl finds a feather in the dirt and keeps it. An old man sits on a rock, looking toward the hills. He's seen 70 harvests, but this one was the gentlest. They lay a blanket on the ground and eat slowly. Cold lentils, goat cheese, dried figs. The meal is humble, but it is enough. This is the leisure of completion, of letting things be. To the ancient Greeks, Hypnos, the god of sleep, was not a joke or escape. He was sacred, a brother of death, and yet also a healer. Sleep was seen as a gift, a time when the soul wandered freely, when dreams brought messages, and when the body gently repaired. Beds were simple, woven mats, soft wool blankets, lavender tucked inside pillows. People drank warm goat's milk with honey before lying down. They said soft prayers, not long, not loud, just thanks for the day. And then, they let go. Let go of thought. Let go of breath. Let go of time. And drifted softly into the gentle night. You've now walked the quiet fields, sat beneath olive trees, listened to lyres and stories under stars, and learned the gentle rhythm of ancient Greek leisure. The countryside, its soft colors, its patient hours, offered peace to everyone, the young, the old, the busy, the thoughtful. And now, as this part ends, you may feel it too. That soft, timeless hum of being exactly where you need to be. Sleep well, traveler of time. The gods are watching kindly from the stars above. The story of Greek leisure cannot stay on land for long, because Greece is not only cities and hills. It is sea. Endless, glimmering sea. The Aegean stretches like a slow breath between the mainland and the islands, soft blue in the morning, golden at dusk. And so, we find ourselves here, aboard a small wooden boat. The sail billows gently with the wind. The oars creak softly as they dip in and out of the water. A single gull cries overhead. Then the world is silent again. There is no hurry. The sea is calm. A man hums as he guides the tiller, eyes half-lidded, sun on his shoulders. This is a ferry, not a warship. It carries wine, olives, and sometimes passengers seeking the quiet of island life. The wind smells of salt and thyme. The wood of the boat is warm to the touch. Everything is still. The boat lands on the small island of Delos, or perhaps Naxos. It does not matter. Each island holds the same sacred hush. The same low hills, dusted with herbs. The same goats dozing beside stone steps. Here, the villagers move slowly. Children play with clay toys in the shade of old walls. Fishermen mend nets with careful fingers. Elders sit under fig trees, speaking little, watching clouds. An old woman sweeps her doorstep, humming the tune her mother once sang. Her hands know the rhythm. The broom knows the stone. There is no clock here. Only the light. In this world, Leisure is not separate from living. It is part of the breath, part of the walk. Baked into the bread, and folded into each linen sheet hanging to dry. Down at the harbor, time slows even further. A fisherman named Theophilus sits on the dock. He's not fishing today. He has already caught enough. He's patching his net, threading hemp through a torn section, one loop at a time. His boat rocks gently nearby. Salt crusts the wood. The ropes smell of seaweed. His feet are bare. His mind is quiet. A boy approaches with a question, and Theophilus just smiles and gestures for him to sit. He teaches the boy the knots. They don't speak much. They don't need to. The sun reflects in their eyes, and the net grows whole again. In the homes of islanders, the walls are thick and cool. The windows are small, shaped to catch the breeze. A clay jug of cool water sits in the shade, beads of moisture collecting on its sides. Inside, a woman prepares a simple meal. Barley bread warmed on a flat stone. Figs, peeled with calloused fingers. Goat cheese crumbled with care. Her daughter naps nearby, curled on a woven mat. The shutters are half closed. Light dances softly on the wall, filtered through vine leaves. Later, after eating, they will sit outside. Just sit. Perhaps they'll talk. Perhaps they won't. Sometimes leisure is not what we do. It's what we allow ourselves not to do. In the center of the village, near a grove of tall cypress trees, stands a small bathhouse. It is not grand, no marble lines or elaborate columns. Just smooth stones, a gentle spring-fed pool, and the echo of dripping water. Villagers enter quietly, wrapping themselves in simple linen cloths. They rinse slowly, pouring water over their shoulders from bronze ladles. There is laughter, but not loud, and conversation, but soft. Some scrub their feet and hum old melodies. Others sit near the steam, breathing deeply, eyes closed. This is no place for vanity. It is for cleansing, for quiet joy, for soft healing of the muscles and the mind. When they leave, they smell of rosemary. And they walk a little lighter. Beyond the village, tucked into a forested hillside, lies a sanctuary. Not a temple of gold, but a grove, a garden, and a place for dreams. This is the Asclepion, the sanctuary of Asclepius, god of healing. And here, people come not to be cured quickly, but to rest, to sleep, to dream deeply. Patients lie on soft beds and shaded porticos. They listen to flowing water, bird song, the breeze through trees. Priests walk gently, barefoot, speaking only when needed. At night, the sick sleep in the abaton, a sacred hall. They wait for dreams to bring guidance. And they believe that Asclepius visits them quietly, in sleep, touching their body, or whispering a cure. No herbs. No sharp tools. Just peace. In the Asclepion, sleep is the highest form of rest. And the priests treat it not as something passive, but something divine. Each night, a man named Diodorus lies down on a woven cot. He places an olive branch beneath his pillow. He closes his eyes as a priest chants slowly from across the room. The stars blink above through the open roof, and a breeze moves through the sacred space like lullaby. Diodorus breathes deeply. His body sinks. And as he drifts, he dreams of a serpent, golden and warm, coiling gently around his leg. When he wakes, the pain in his knee is gone. He tells the priest. The priest smiles and says, "Then Asclepius has visited you. You've now floated across seas, stepped through island paths, rested in healing gardens, and slept beneath the eyes of the gods." In the quiet of the Asclepion, dreams are not just dreams. They are messages. And the most sacred symbol is the serpent. Not feared, but honored. Not hidden, but welcomed. In one chamber, a woman named Anthe lies still. She has come from far away, hoping for healing. She fasted for 2 days, bathed in spring water, and now she sleeps under the stars. Her dream comes gently. She sees a white snake slithering beside her, its tongue flicking, its body cool. It does not frighten her. Instead, she feels warmth in her chest. When she wakes, her breathing is easier. She weeps softly, not in fear, but in gratitude. The priest records her dream with careful symbols on a wax tablet. He does not rush. He does not question. He simply listens. Each morning in the sanctuary begins the same way. Soft footsteps on stone. The smell of crushed herbs burning gently in clay bowls. And quiet voices, sharing dreams. Patients gather near the altar. Not to worship, but to understand. A priest listens. He tilts his head. And he speaks not in certainty, but in suggestion. A snake is not always a snake, he says. Sometimes it means rebirth. A cup in the hand may mean health returned. A cave in the dream may show where fear lives. There are no judgments, only soft wisdom, spoken like lullaby. A reminder that dreams are the soul's own language, and healing is not always of the body. Elsewhere in the village, beyond the sanctuary, even among the simplest homes, sleep is treated with reverence. A child brushes olive oil on his arms before bed, not for vanity, but for softness. His grandmother combs his hair with slow strokes, and tells a story, not of monsters, but of the moon. That moon is Selene, she whispers. She rides her silver chariot across the sky, pulling night behind her like a blanket. The child listens with half-closed eyes. A clay lamp flickers beside them. A dog sighs at the doorway. Sleep comes like a tide. Soft, steady, complete. Not all lullabies have words. Some are just hums. Notes passed from mother to child, like bird song. In a small home near the edge of the village, a mother rocks her infant. She hums a tune she does not remember learning. Because she never did. It was always inside her. The child's breath slows. The hum continues. Outside, reeds rustle in the breeze. A lyre plays in the distance. Someone pours wine, slowly, on the steps of a small altar. Sleep belongs to everyone, the old, the young, the gods themselves. And lullabies are not only for children. Sometimes, they are for the one singing. The Greeks did not fear death in the way we might imagine. For them, it was another form of sleep. A passing into stillness. Into memory. Into story. They buried their loved ones with care. A sprig of myrtle. A small cup of wine. A coin for Charon, the ferryman. But they also believed that the soul might rest in the meadow of asphodel, where it wandered softly, forever, without pain. Tombstones spoke gently. Stranger, pass by, and remember me. Not beware. Not mourn. Just remember. Death was not an end. It was a sigh. And then, the silence after. And so we come full circle. From the gymnasiums and marketplaces of Athens, to the fig trees and vineyards of the countryside, to the salt winds of the islands, and now, to the final form of leisure, sleep that never ends. To the Greeks, to live well was to rest well. To rest well was to think gently. To think gently was to speak softly. And to speak softly was to remember that even the gods had their time to sleep. So now, as your eyes begin to close, let Selene guide you in her silver chariot. Let the breeze carry your breath out to sea. Let Hypnos cradle your thoughts in his arms. And let go. You've now walked slowly through the full arc of Greek leisure. not just of the body, but of the heart, and of the spirit. You've seen that leisure is not laziness. It is life lived without rushing. Life shared. Life remembered. And now, like the ancients, you too may rest. Sleep well, traveler. You've earned it. The sun rises slowly over Athens. It does not shout or blaze. It peaks, soft and golden, over the tiled rooftops, warming the courtyards, glinting on the dewdrops resting on fig leaves. Today is not an ordinary day. Today is a festival day. Not a day of wildness or noise, but of meaning, of gentle preparation, of sacred leisure. In the home of a modest family, the mother stirs early. She sprinkles barley on the hearth fire, not to cook, but to honor. The father cleans the family's small clay shrine to Hestia. The children help pick flowers from the hillside, delicate crocuses and soft anemones. There is no rush, no market to hurry to, no field to till. This is a day of pause. As the day unfolds, the city seems to breathe more slowly. In the agora, the usual clatter of trade is replaced by murmurs. People are gathering, but not to buy. They wear fresh linen. Some wear olive wreaths. Others hold baskets of fruit or folded cloth. The festival will begin with a procession. But there is no trumpet, no marching. Only the slow movement of neighbors, walking side by side, along roads dusted by morning breeze. Some carry offerings, small honey cakes wrapped in fig leaves. Others carry garlands of laurel or wine in clay jars. Even the animals move slowly today. A goat, led by rope, stops to nibble at a vine. No one minds. This is a day meant to slow, to soften, to remember the divine. By mid-morning, the procession reaches the temple. It is not a fortress. It is not intimidating. It is open, full of columns, bird song, and clear air. The courtyard is swept. Statues are draped in fresh cloth. The altar is warm from the sun. One by one, the townspeople approach. They place their offerings. Not with fanfare, but with care. A woman kneels. She sets down a cake of barley and honey. Then, she touches the earth, and says a name. Not aloud. Just, to the wind. Behind her, a boy ties a strand of ivy to the temple gate. His grandfather stands nearby, his hand resting on the boy's shoulder. The gods, it is believed, walk among the people on days like these. Not as flashes of lightning, but as gentle breezes. As the warmth on one's back. As the sun rises higher, some make their way to the theater. But not for loudness. Not for spectacle. For reflection. For togetherness. The theater of Dionysus, carved into the slope of a hill, holds hundreds. And yet, it is quiet. People sit on smooth stone benches, shaded by cloths. Children lean against their mothers. Old men close their eyes and hum the familiar songs. A play begins, but the voices are calm. Poetry floats through the air like smoke. The actors wear masks, not to hide, but to reveal something deeper. In Greek festivals, the theater is not distraction. It is sacred rest. A chance to feel the world from another's soul. After the play, there is food. But not feasting. Not indulgence. Just the joy of eating slowly. Under the trees. Families gather beneath an olive grove. Blankets are spread. Baskets opened. There are olives and cheese. Honey and sesame bread. Fresh figs, still warm from the sun. No music. No shouting. Only the crunch of bread. The whisper of wind through the branches. And the quiet laughter of cousins reunited. One elder pours wine into a clay cup. then into another, and another. Not for drunkenness, but for sharing. The cups pass slowly, like time. As the sky turns rose-colored, the people return to the temple. They do not speak much. The hush of dusk seems to ask for silence. A small flame is lit at the altar, and then another, and another. The light spreads, not like a wildfire, but like the stars themselves, revealing slowly, softly. A priestess stands in white. She raises her hand, not in command, but in greeting. She recites a hymn, slow, ancient, and known to all. Some hum along. Some close their eyes. It is not the words that matter, but the rhythm. The calm repetition. Like waves lapping at the shore. In a quiet grove just outside the city, a different kind of festival is beginning. It is not public. And it is not loud. It is the Thesmophoria, a sacred gathering of women. Only women. They come with baskets on their heads. Some wear veils. They walk with slow steps, like a procession of prayers. They honor Demeter and Persephone, goddesses of grain, of seasons, of death and rebirth. For 3 days, the women sleep outdoors. They sing songs known only to them. They laugh. They cry. They whisper secrets into the earth. No men attend. No scribes record it. But it is remembered. In silence. In sisterhood. In the slow rhythm of stories passed from mother to daughter. On the second night of Thesmophoria, the women dig small pits. Into them, they place offerings. Grains, bits of old bread, dried myrtle leaves. They sleep nearby, on mats made of straw, under open sky. It is said that sleeping close to the soil brings fertility, not only of the womb, but of thought, of speech, of life itself. In the distance, the sounds of the city fade. Here, there is only the chirping of crickets, the gentle rustle of fabric, and the soft breathing of many bodies, resting together. Even in sacred duty, there is rest. And even in rest, there is sacredness. Far to the west, in the wide fields of Olympia, a different kind of stillness begins. Every 4 years, for over 1,000 years, the Greeks honored Zeus with games. But before the races, before the athletes, came something far more important. The sacred truce. The games themselves were not just about strength. They were about form, about grace, about pause. Wrestlers began by circling, not striking, but waiting, feeling. Runners stood still, toes at the line, eyes forward. No shouts, just breath. The crowd watched not as fans, but as witnesses. Even victory was quiet. A wreath of olive leaves. A nod. No gold. No anthem. Only the knowledge that something ancient had been done well, and seen, and remembered. The Greek year was not divided by months alone, but by moods, by seasons of rest and seasons of return. In autumn, people slowed, not just for the harvest, but for the quiet that followed. In winter, days were short. Fires burned longer. Homes felt smaller, and warmer. Time passed in wool spinning, in quiet prayers to Hestia, in olive oil massages, and slow bread baking. Leisure wasn't scheduled. It was woven into the year. A part of nature. The gods didn't rush. Why should mortals? For the ancient Greeks, time did not march forward. It turned. Like the moon. Like a wheel. Like a dance. Every festival would come again. Every name would be spoken again. Every rest would return. This gave life rhythm. Not pressure, not urgency. A child's first festival would become her favorite memory, then her child's, then her grandchild's. Even in change, there was sameness. Even in chaos, there was pause. Even in forgetting, there was remembering. So, what is sacred leisure? It is not idleness. It is not escape. It is the time we give ourselves to connect, to breathe, to exist without needing to earn that existence, to sit with others, and with silence. The Greeks believed the gods watched how we rested, and smiled when we did so, with care, with meaning, with love. So if you are resting now, if your eyes are closing, if your mind is floating somewhere between olive groves and temple stones, know this: you are honoring something very old, and very, very human. You've now wandered through the sacred time of the Greeks, not just how they rested, but how they wove rest into life. From hidden women's festivals, to olive grove picnics, to Olympic months of peace, every moment mattered. And now, as your breathing slows, as your own festival of sleep begins, remember, you are part of the same story. Still turning. Still sacred. Still soft. Sleep well. Evening settles over the village like a linen shawl. The shadows lengthen. The air cools. But in one corner of town, warmth still rises. It is the Balneum, the public bathhouse. It is not large or grand. Not marble and gold. Just a circular room with a clay furnace. A shallow pool of warm water. A stone bench. And soft steam curling toward the ceiling. People arrive slowly. Fathers with tired shoulders. Young men with sore legs. And elders who've come just to sit. They undress not with shame, but with simplicity. This is not a place to be seen. It is a place to let go. Anointing oil is passed hand to hand. Olive, thick and golden. They rub it gently into skin, then scrape it off with a curved bronze strigil, removing dust, sweat, worry. No one speaks loudly. Just murmurs, laughter beneath breath, and sighs of contentment. The bath is not just for cleansing the body. It is a ritual of respect. The oil rubbed into backs by a friend's hands. The gentle scraping of the strigil, removing the day with care. Outside the door, sandals are neatly left in pairs. Inside, the floor is warm. The room smells of olive, crushed bay leaves, and earth. It's quiet here, except for water dripping slowly, from one stone basin to another. An elder helps a boy tie his chiton again. The boy bows slightly in thanks. It's a moment. But it lingers. Clean, oiled, and slowed, the bathers emerge into the cool night, lighter than before. Not far from the bathhouse, a few lamps glow in a private courtyard. This is the setting for the symposium. Not a party. Not a feast. But a conversation. The host has laid out low couches. The table is modest. Bowls of olives, sliced dates, a clay pitcher of diluted wine. There is no rush to begin. No clinking of plates. No roaring laughter. Only slow arrivals. Warm greetings. And soft music drifting from a lyre resting on someone's lap. The men recline. Some remove their sandals. The evening is for sharing. Stories. Songs. Ideas. A guest takes up the lyre. He does not tune it with ceremony. He simply plucks a few notes, then a few more, until the melody finds him. The others fall still. One closes his eyes. Another watches the stars. The music is not grand. It is a lullaby for grown men. A gentle descent. The singer's voice is low. Almost a whisper. He sings of the sea, of fishermen, of a bird that followed a ship for 3 days. The others nod. They've heard it before, but tonight, it feels new. That is the beauty of the symposium. Same wine, same stories, but never quite the same moment. Later, the conversation begins. Not loudly, not all at once. It begins the way water fills a shallow bowl, slowly, gently, with ripples. One man speaks of a dream he had, about a lion who wept. Another recalls a saying from an old teacher. Another answers with a joke, but quietly, so that it feels like silk, not brass. There are pauses. There is space. No one interrupts. No one needs to win. A cup is passed, filled, passed again. And still, the stars listen. At the edge of the group, an older man sits with a tablet on his knees. He writes nothing, just runs his fingers over the wax, thinking. He is a student of Plato, or perhaps of no one. He listens more than he speaks. When he speaks, it is soft and slow. Is rest, he asks, a kind of knowledge? The others smile. Not because it's clever, but because it is true. In Greek thought, leisure is not wasted. It is sacred. It is the soil from which wisdom grows. To rest is to make space for the soul. The symposium ends not with applause, but with a breeze. The guests rise, slowly. Their footsteps are soft. The night has deepened. Some walk in pairs, others alone. The streets of the village are quiet. Oil lamps flicker on doorways. The sky is thick with stars. One man stops by a fig tree. He touches its leaves. Another man sings a single line of the song from earlier. Then nothing more. And just like that, the night returns to itself. Still. Silent. Sacred. In the women's quarters of the home, the night unfolds more softly still. A single oil lamp glows near the loom. Its flame dances like a slow breath. A mother sits beside it, her hands busy with wool. She is not working with haste. She is finishing a row. Then another. The rhythm is calming, like a lullaby for her own hands. A child sits nearby, humming to herself, tapping 2 little stones together, making a quiet game out of time. The loom creaks. The lamp hums. Outside, a night bird sings. There is no rush to bed. Only the slow winding down of a day well lived. In the courtyard, before sleep comes fully, children play a quiet game. It is called a paraxis, a simple bouncing game with a ball. They take turns, counting softly in rhythm. 1, 2, 3. The older ones play ephedrismos, tossing stones at a larger rock, trying to knock it over. Whoever misses must carry the other on their back. There is laughter, but muffled, respectful of the hour. Even in play, there is balance. The night is cool. Their feet are bare. The stones are smooth. The game will end soon. But the memory of these nights will stretch across their lives, like soft footprints on clay. Now the house is dim. The games are done. The child curls beneath a light-woven blanket. A mother begins to hum. It is not a song with words, just a tune passed down. Her mother sang it to her, and her mother before that. The melody rises and falls like the hills outside, like the waves that lap the shore, like the wind in the olive trees. The child's eyes close, but the mother keeps singing, a little while longer. She is not singing to the child alone, but to the house, to the quiet, to the night itself. In a quieter home, further from the city's edge, A man sits alone at a wooden table. He is a scribe, not wealthy, but careful. By the light of two lamps, he copies a passage from a play. Not for money, for love. He pauses to dip his stylus in ink. He scratches a correction, then closes his eyes to remember the next line. The room is still. Scrolls line the shelf. A cat sleeps near his feet. When he finally sets the stylus down, his body sighs. His mind is full, but quiet. He has written enough for one night. Elsewhere, a poet lies awake. Not from worry, but from wonder. The poem came to him earlier, during the evening bath. He whispered the lines to himself, as he dried his arms. Now, lying beneath a thin linen sheet, he recites them again in his mind. The stars above are silent. The breeze lifts the edge of the curtain. He feels the shape of the stanza forming, but does not rise to write it. It will still be there in the morning. And if it isn't, that, too, is part of the poem. He closes his eyes, and the rhythm continues. Inside. To the Greeks, sleep was not just rest. It was a visit, a journey to another realm. The god Hypnos was gentle. He came on quiet feet. He touched the forehead, and the world slowed. Even mighty Zeus, even restless Hermes, even the warriors of Sparta, all bowed to sleep. In temples, priests recorded dreams, as messages from the divine. In homes, mothers whispered a prayer, before sleep. May Hypnos hold you, and Morpheus show you beauty. And so, they drifted. Not into nothingness, but into something rich, soft, and sacred. And now, the city rests. From the smallest hut to the tallest temple, lamps are low. Gates are shut. Voices fade to memory. Only the breeze remains, moving softly through fig trees, across rooftops, through doorways left ajar. A guard leans against a wall, his eyes half closed. A dog lifts its head, then sleeps again. Even the stars seem to dim. The ancient world, so full of motion by day, has yielded to something deeper. Something slower. Something sacred. Sleep, far from the city streets, on a gentle hillside among cypress trees, stood a sacred place known to many, the Asclepion, a temple of healing and sleep. Pilgrims came quietly, not with shouts or banners, but with tired hearts. They came to rest, to dream, and perhaps, to heal. Before entering, they bathed, anointed their feet with oil, laid down their burdens, in the care of the god Asclepius, whose serpent staff stood carved in stone. They slept on woven mats, not alone, but not disturbed. And in sleep, they hoped for a vision, a message, a sign, a dream that would show them what the waking world could not. The dreams in the Asclepion were gentle, symbolic, whispered. A stream flowing backward, a bird nesting in the palm, a god offering bread. In the morning, the temple priest would listen. No judgment, no rush. Together, they would find the meaning, not just for the body, but for the spirit. Healing, for the Greeks, was not just a matter of verbs and hands, but of sleep, of peace, of letting the gods speak, in the language of night. Back in the villages, the morning after a good night's rest was slow. Not sluggish, not heavy, just unhurried. Doors opened to the chirp of sparrows. Bread was broken quietly. Faces were washed in cold water, without complaint. The potter hummed as he checked his kiln. The shepherd yawned as he tied his sandals. The woman at the loom stretched her arms. and smiled at the threads she'd left waiting. Arrested people moves like a soft river. No splash. No rush. The Greeks knew this. They honored it. To rise slowly was not laziness, but wisdom. Even the great philosophers spoke of leisure not as waste, but as purpose. Aristotle once said that leisure is the basis of culture. Plato believed that a life of constant motion left no room for the soul to breathe. So the thinkers of Greece, in gardens, in courtyards, under fig trees, taught that true learning comes not in frenzy, but in stillness. They taught their students to sit with silence, to sip wine slowly, to look at stars, not for navigation, but for wonder. As the sun sets again, and another night arrives, the moon rises over rooftops and olive trees. She has watched the Greeks through thousands of evenings. Watched them dance slowly in the torchlight. Watched them sleep in courtyards, or beneath fig trees, or on the decks of quiet ships. She has seen the same breath, the same laughter, the same dreaming eyes, generation after generation. She sees you now, too. Listening, breathing, beginning to let go. And still, she shines. And now, your journey into the ancient world has come to its quiet end. You have walked their streets, heard their music, bathed in their waters, dreamed in their temples. You have shared their leisure, not in grand feasts or fierce debates, but in the little things. A song, a sigh, a silence. The Greeks lived fully, but they also knew when to pause, when to rest, when to let the soul stretch its limbs in the soft dark of night. And now it is your turn. Close your eyes. Breathe softly. Let the stories fade into silence. Let the echoes of lyres and laughter carry you gently into your own ancient dreams. In the peaceful countryside of ancient Greece, the mornings arrived not with alarm, but with light. Soft golden beams spilled over the hills, and slipped gently into stone homes, through wooden shutters and woven curtains. There were no clocks, no shrill beeps, only the sound of doves calling, and roosters waking with calm declarations. Life stirred gradually, like olive leaves in the breeze. Inside a typical home, the hearth was already warm. Embers had been banked from the night before. A woman knelt to stir the coals, adding a handful of twigs, as the flames flickered back to life. Breakfast was simple: a bit of barley bread, some olives, a few dried figs soaked in water, to make them soft again. Children stretched and yawned. Men wrapped themselves in chittens, and stepped outside into the soft light, carrying baskets or clay jugs, for water or milk. After breakfast, many Greeks enjoyed a slow morning walk. Some went to the wellspring, where the water trickled from limestone cliffs, cool and ancient. Others wandered the fields, not to labor, but to feel the earth underfoot, to greet a neighbor, or to smell the wild thyme, growing at the edge of the hills. Elders walked slowly, staffs in hand, not for exercise, but for presence. Even children followed, gathering herbs, chasing butterflies, or simply listening to the breeze, playing through the fig trees. Herb gatherers were often wise women. They walked alone or in pairs, carrying woven baskets, and humming old songs. They knew where to find marjoram, sage, fennel, and mint. They would kneel beside the plants, speak to them softly, pluck only what was needed, and leave offerings: a pebble, a whisper, a prayer. In the hills, the air smelled of rosemary and sea breeze. And sometimes, you could hear the distant sound of sheep bells, as a shepherd guided his flock to a nearby spring. In the town square or outside the agora, friends would gather in the shade of a fig tree or under the portico. They didn't rush. They didn't shout. They simply sat, legs stretched, backs leaned against stone columns, talking of the weather, of stories heard, of a dream remembered. Old men with beards chewed bits of pine resin or fennel root. Young women braided each other's hair, or watched their children play in the dust, with handmade dolls or wooden animals. Not all leisure was passive. Some came through rhythm, the slow, steady flow of walking the hills, with goats or sheep. A herder might spend the day, moving gently between slopes, watching the clouds drift over Mount High Meadows, and playing a reed flute, while the animals grazed nearby. It was not glamorous, but it was deeply quiet. And in that quiet, many found clarity. They returned home, not with riches, but with peace. When the sun reached its peak, most people found a shaded spot, and rested. Figs were peeled slowly. Grapes were shared. Cool water from terracotta jugs was poured carefully into hand-shaped bowls. This was not a time to rush, but to pause. A midday breeze rustled through vines, and the scent of citrus trees mixed with the salt of the far-off sea. Even the bees seemed slower. Some returned to their homes, to engage in peaceful work. Weaving, carving, repairing nets, mending baskets. These tasks were not rushed. They were part of the rhythm. Soft repetition, gentle motion, a kind of moving meditation. Old stories were told. Sometimes a small child would sit nearby, watching and learning, not just the technique, but the calm that came with it. As the afternoon light softened, some wandered back to the hills, to sit beneath a tree, or near a small stream. Others walked the worn path, to visit an old friend. They didn't knock. They simply appeared, and were welcomed. The Greeks valued presence, not in quantity, but in quiet quality. To sit with someone in silence was a form of affection. To the Greeks, leisure was not idle time. It was sacred. The space to breathe, to connect, to listen to birds, and think of nothing in particular. In these hours, philosophers dreamed. Children laughed softly. And the earth turned, without effort. They knew something we are still trying to remember. That to rest is to live. As evening crept near again, the villagers made their way home. Not tired, but complete. The day had been filled, not with noise or urgency, but with little things, done fully, and with care. A final figure, a final story, a cool splash of water, on the face and feet. And then, as stars appeared in the lavender sky, they drifted into sleep, just as gently as they had awakened, in a quiet courtyard tucked behind sun-washed stone walls. A painter knelt beside a low wooden bench. The light was perfect, not too bright, not too dim. The time of day when shadows softened, and the world felt still. He was in no rush. A small jar of ochre sat by his side, mixed from earth, crushed shells, and a little water drawn from a cool basin nearby. Next to it, a bowl of charcoal dust, stirred into a deep black ink. His brush was made from horsehair, tied gently to a reed. Delicate, quiet. He worked on a clay amphora, its rounded belly resting between cloths, slowly painting a scene of dancers in a grove. Not warriors or gods, but people like himself, sharing wine beneath the moon. His wife sat nearby, shelling peas into a bowl. She did not speak. She knew this was his dreaming time. Each stroke of his brush was like a breath. Slow, curved, steady. He would pause often. Not to judge, but to see. The way a line curled like a vine. The way the negative space hummed. The way quiet could be held, in the crook of a dancer's arm. Sometimes a cat wandered into the courtyard, curling up by the corner column. Sometimes a neighbor would pass by, see the painter at work, and simply raise a hand in greeting. Wordless content. Art was not hurried. Not in this place. It moved with the soul. At the other side of the village, young apprentices sat cross-legged, on woven mats in the shade of a fig tree. Each one held a small clay tablet. Each was copying, slowly, the curls of a vine, the pattern of a meander, the flutter of a tunic. Their teacher, an old painter named Thales, spoke little. He simply watched. When one child grew frustrated, he placed a hand on her shoulder, and said only, "Let the hand follow the breath. Let the breath follow the stillness." And she tried again, this time softer. A bee buzzed lazily past. The smell of crushed lavender rose from the warm stone path. In the distance, someone played a reed pipe. In a wealthier home, a mural was being painted on a cool interior wall. But not for glory. Not to impress. It was a gift. For a grandmother who liked birds. And so, the painter filled the wall with soft wings. Doves in flight. Finches nesting. A heron by a riverbank. All painted in light colors, soft as mist. The grandmother sat watching, her eyes closed, a cup of honeyed wine in her hand. She smiled. "Now," she said, "my dreams will have wings." And the painter nodded, still adding feathers, with the gentleness of someone writing a lullaby on stone. In ancient Greece, art wasn't a performance. It was part of the day. Like kneading bread. Like brushing a child's hair. Like watching the wind move the sea. It lived in every corner. The stitch of a tunic's border. The etching on a cup. The mosaic near a door that showed dolphins leaping. Artists were not kings. They were listeners. To silence. To shape. To the slow unfolding of a world that wanted to be seen gently. And through their quiet leisure, they helped the world remember how beautiful it already was. As the sun lowered toward the western hills, a young man sat beneath an old olive tree, his lyre resting across his knees. He tuned its 7 strings carefully, plucking each with fingers dipped in olive oil, to soften the sound. He didn't play to perform. He played because it was evening. Because the light was golden. Because the breeze through the branches sounded like a song half remembered. The music was simple. Just a few notes, falling like petals onto the stones. In a nearby clearing, a few families gathered as they often did. Blankets were spread on the earth. Loaves of bread wrapped in cloth were unwrapped. A pitcher of wine was passed from hand to hand. No one called it a concert. It was just what they did. Children sat on laps. Old men leaned on elbows. The lyre's music reached them, like the smell of fresh thyme. And when the music paused, a voice rose from the group. An old woman named Arithia, who had once danced in the spring games. Her voice cracked, but no one minded. She began to sing, a song she had known since before she had gray in her hair. Further up the hill, stone seats had been carved long ago into the slope. A place they called Theatron, the scene place. There was no roof, no curtain, just the earth, the sky, and the people. At twilight, a young boy walked down with a flute, followed by a girl holding a scroll. They were not professionals. They were just brave. She read slowly, a tale of love and longing from Sappho's fragments. He played notes between the words, soft and small, like the sound of someone remembering. And the audience, dozens of neighbors and friends, watched not with applause, but with stillness. After the poem faded, another stepped forward, an older man in a blue amation, with a lantern in one hand, and a voice like quiet rain. He was a mythologos, a teller of tales. No mask, no stage, just words. He told of Persephone in the underworld, but he told it softly, not with fire and fear, but with calm, as if the gods themselves were quiet tonight. And as he spoke, the audience felt the grass beneath their feet, and the hush of the earth turning slowly towards sleep. When the tales ended, the people did not rush home. They stayed. Some stared at the stars. Others stretched out on their backs, arms folded behind their heads, listening to the crickets and the wind. A boy whispered, "I liked the part where the goddess wept." And his mother nodded, brushing a curl from his forehead. Someone passed around a basket of dates. Another poured the last of the wine into a wide, shallow bowl. The fire burned low. The night deepened, and the music of rest settled into every breath. Long after most had gone, just a few remained. Two sisters, lying side by side. A shepherd boy curled under his cloak. The storyteller himself, watching the smoke rise into the sky. And above them, the stars, the same stars that had watched every poem, every whisper, every lyre song, since the very first fire was lit. The Greeks believed that even the gods rested sometimes. And on such nights, with gentle stories floating into the dark, perhaps they did. Just outside the city of Athens, past the last olive grove, and beyond the quiet road, there was a garden. Not a garden of roses or fountains, but of gravel paths, shaded fig trees, and silence. This was the garden of Epicurus, a place where those weary of noise came to think, and not think. Benches made from old wood circled a central figure. Pebbles crackled softly under sandals. A low wall held back the wild herbs, but thyme and mint still crept over the edges. Here, philosophers met. Not to argue, but to sit. Epicurus himself was said to speak slowly, never with a raised voice, never to conquer an idea, but to hold it, like water in the palm. He spoke of tranquility, of ataraxia, a mind unshaken. You need not have riches, he said, if you have shade and a friend. And so they spoke, not of gods, or war, or glory. They spoke of bread, and rest, and what made the heart still. Someone once asked, is not death a terror? Epicurus only smiled. He looked at the swaying fig leaves, and said, no more than sleep. At the other end of the garden, a young scribe slowly copied a scroll. He dipped his stylus into ink made from soot and vinegar, and let each word stretch softly across the parchment. He didn't rush. The pace of copying was meditative. Each word entered his hand, then the reed, then the page. It was a work by Anaxagoras, about the moon's light, and how stars may be other suns. The boy's mind wandered, but not away. He thought about the night sky, and when he looked up, he saw the first star of the evening, beginning to blink. Some came to the garden not to speak, but to walk. There was a path, worn smooth by years of sandals, curving softly past thyme bushes and laurel trees. Philosophers walked in circles there, not debating, but unraveling thoughts, like tangled threads. One man whispered a verse with each step. Another counted his breaths. A woman walked silently, a folded letter clutched in her hand, her sandals brushing dust that had settled from the stars. No one interrupted. This was thinking through the body. Leisure as a rhythm. Steps instead of arguments. As the night grew deep, and even the insects had hushed, some would stay behind in the grove. A low oil lamp burned beside a stone, casting golden pools onto the ground. A few students sat in silence, watching the smoke from their teacher's incense curl upward toward the stars. They weren't looking for answers. Just quiet. A feeling. A hush beneath the cosmos. One boy whispered, "If the world ends, will it start again?" The teacher only smiled, and pointed up. "There is always another morning." And the boy rested his head against the base of a tree, and dreamed of sunrises. In the world of the Greeks, leisure was not laziness. It was sacred. It was the soul turning gently inward, toward itself. In the garden, in the theater, by the painter's bench, or in the quiet field, the Greeks found rest, not only for the body, but for the spirit. They did not hurry through time. They lived with it. In slow hours. In shared stories. In thoughtful walks. And so tonight, as your eyes grow heavy, and the stars outside your window begin to blink, may your dreams be filled with olive groves, warm laughter, and the hush of an ancient world that knew how to rest. As the last golden rays slipped behind the hills, the streets of Athens grew quiet. The market stalls were empty, and the laughter of children playing in the afternoon faded like a soft song. Families gathered inside their homes, doors left open to welcome the cool evening air. Inside small homes, oil lamps were lit, casting gentle glows on clay walls. Mothers folded woolen cloths, and fathers told quiet stories to sleepy children. Outside, the breeze rustled olive leaves softly, carrying the scent of herbs and earth. The city's noise had turned to whispers, and the stars came out one by one. The cicadas had fallen silent, and only the faint sound of the sea in the distance remained. In their beds of straw and linen, the Greeks closed their eyes, carried away by gentle dreams of gods, gardens, and golden days. And now, dear friend, it's time for you to rest as well. Let your breath slow. Feel your body soften. Let the gentle stories of an ancient world carry you quietly to sleep. May your dreams be calm, and your heart light. Good night.